on beats.
What up, everybody? Hi, Immortal. Hi, Brandon. Hi, T'all. Hi, Mighty. How's everybody doing? All you guys lurking out there. My stream says it's unstable. It's not unstable. It's unstable. It needs help. Hope you guys are doing wonderful on this, for me, rainy Saturday. It's kind of rainy. It's a summer shower outside. Is my favorite kind of weather. Like I said, hope you guys are doing well this weekend. We are getting ready here to start episode 6 of Offscript RP podcast. I have special guests with me, Runwyld and SixyRP, two good friends of mine I've been RPing with for years now. And we're going to be discussing the topic of give more than you take is going to be a topic regarding giving roleplay as opposed to taking RP. And we've got some topics we're going to talk about. And it's just going to be this is going to be more chill discussion. What up, Big Tone? This is going to be more chill discussion than like kind of structured like I've done in the past. There are some downsides to the structure I've done in the past. Runwyld, thank you for the host, my brother. I appreciate you. So this is going to be, I have some talking points and ideas, but I want this to be more of an organic discussion as opposed to like a structured like questionnaire as I've done in the past. It had its time. It's not my favorite. But we're trying something a little bit new, something a little more unstructured and a little more just kind of lackadaisical conversation, more organic conversation. I think it'll be better, especially with the people we've got involved. What up, Parshath? So yeah, Runwyld just went to grab some water. As soon as he gets back from grabbing water, I'll go ahead and get them in here, and I'll make the introductions, and we'll get started. Generally, it turns into a discussion. It always turns into a discussion, so I don't want to waste my time going through this, like, super finite talking points and, like, layout, and then have it just thrown out the window. So at this point, I have some general talking points and some general ideas, and then we'll just kind of shoot some ideas around. But it looks like they're back, so we'll go ahead and jump over here. If I grab my mouse, why do I have my remote? All right. Click the buttons. And if it'll cooperate with me. Discord. Hello?
Hello?
There it goes. Discord was being a butt. Sixy, you there too?
Yes.
There we go. Well, hello guys. Good to talk to you guys. It's been a while.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So, chat, we have Runwyld and Sixy with us today. As I said before, it's going to be a topic of give more than you take, which is basically discussion of giving roleplay, which, perfectly honest, these are two of the best roleplay givers I've met, so I thought it would be a good topic to bring them in on. How are you guys doing this weekend?
I'm good. I just got back. I just got back from a couple of days off, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's what you're telling me. You were taking some time to go celebrate or something.
Yeah. Pretty much the whole family's vaccinated, so we're just like, you know what? Let's get out for a little bit. And it was weird. It was weird walking around and not having to wear a mask, but whatever.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
And Sixy, I understand you just woke up.
Yep, I had a 12-hour sleep. It was great.
Damn. You know what's funny is when I got down on my, because I did laundry and cleaned the apartment and everything and sat down on my computer, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start poking people and making sure everybody's ready. And Runwild's like, yeah, I'm good. And I was like, you know, Sixy's still offline. I'd bet good money she's still passed the fuck out. And then you were like, I just woke up. I'm like, I should have put money down. I would have made easy $10. Easy money. All right. So as I was saying a second ago to my chat, this is not as Sixy's actually been on the podcast before, so she's familiar with the old way I did things, which I had a very kind of like structured talking points as far as ideas and like conversations, and I gave it to everybody beforehand. We could kind of like prep some stuff, but that always got thrown out the window because it always just turned into an organic conversation anyways. And I know that Runwyld is a big talker, and I know that Sixy can be a big talker. I know, right? So
well, I am not. I'm quiet. What are you talking
quiet. Ha. In what universe?
I don't know.
So I figured it would be better to just kind of have a general idea of a conversation of a topic, and then just let us kind of, especially with it being one guest down. Normally I have 3 guests, so with 2 guests, this is going to be a just much more conversational podcast. So that being said, chat, for those of you who are unaware of these people, first off, what's wrong with you? Second, Runwyld is a buddy of mine I met through FAM. He is now on SixyRP. He plays, remind me your character's name? It's, because I always hear nicknames.
Right now,
Yeah.
So I have Elise Devereaux, I've got Daniel Bishop,
Right, yep.
Vicky Mimosa, and a new character that starts tomorrow who is TC, in quotes, Toasty Crosby.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the nicknames. I like it.
Yeah.
And then Sixy, who used to be Sincere Six, she has roleplayed with me on FAM for a while now. She's still on FAM every once in a while with me. She plays Bauer, but she also is on SixyRP with Bauer, as well as she made Emma Amato into a cop, which is one of the best things I've ever seen.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, not at all.
Freaking Tomato as a cop.
Tomato. Oh my gosh. I still remember when...
Wait, Tomato.
I still remember all the time when McNeil would pay Amato for tow, and then 10 minutes later would be arresting Amato for doing something illegal, and it was always fun.
I loved doing that shit, man. It was such good roleplay.
It was so much fun. With the topic today, chat, as I said, it's going to be more of a conversation based on giving roleplay. So just to kind of get the ball rolling, let the conversation start going down rabbit holes, which it's no doubt going to do. First, I want to go ahead and ask both of you guys, in your own words, just quickly sum up, what is giving roleplay to you? What would if someone asked you, well, what does it mean to give roleplay? What is a quick little summation that you would give to that person? Looks like Sixy's muted, so Ron, I'll let you go first.
Go figure. So for me, giving roleplay, right, is all about being part quest giver, And the other part is including people in your role play, right? So sometimes you end up with a small little group that starts something out, but the more people that you include, the more that people are able to kind of, start giving other people additional role play. So that's the two sides that I look at.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Including more than just one person or yourself in the role play, but spreading it out to as many players as you can. And then, as you said, the quest giver part of that, which is, I will get into quest giver here in just a minute because that was actually a new term to me when I got into roleplay. I'd never heard it before, and now obviously it's a huge part of roleplay. But I definitely want to talk about quest giving here in a bit. Sixy, if you had to be asked the same question of what is giving roleplay, how can you describe that? What would you tell somebody?
Similar thing for me. That's why I made Emma who was when I first started, because as a watcher of RP, and at that time I was watching mostly NoPixel and Fam, I just noticed like what characters would do to like stop roleplay or just prevent more roleplay from happening, whether it be good or bad. So that's why Emma was so open and friendly with everyone, so I could just include them in the RP easily, right?
Sure.
Like last night there was like a weird fucking truck on Twitch RP, and I could have easily not called it in, but I called it in because they were ramming me, and it added more cops to the roleplay. It's something as simple as that versus just keeping that to myself.
Okay, so just and so basically in a single sentence, basically, it's just taking something that would be a one-on-one and just whatever you can do to loop more players in, like you said, calling in additional units to something that you could have easily handled yourself.
Yeah, or I knew it was like a mod or dev fucking around, and I could have just let it go, but I was like,
let's make something out of nothing, essentially. Okay, cool. All right, so since Run mentioned quest giving, we can just go straight into that because I don't have any structure. Haha. So can you, just for people who are not familiar with that phrase or have heard it but not 100% certain what it means, can you describe, or to the best of your ability, describe what quest giving is?
It literally does what it says on the can with that one, right? A quest giver is exactly what it sounds like. When we play any type of video game and we have to go do something because someone told us to, that is a quest giver. So instead of you being the person who's always like, yeah, I'll go do this, or yeah, I'll go do that, a quest giver is the person who's giving out the role play. You're giving out something to do. I.e., I'm looking for a red bandana. Does anyone know where can you go get me a red bandana? Give that quest out to someone else. Can I go get one? Yeah, I can go get one. Can I tweet about it? Sure, I can tweet about it. What's the fun in that? Go give it to someone else. Let them go do something for you.
Yeah.
And those types of things, right, is literally what a lot of the basis of video games and your like any role play is about. You have these quest givers that are there to drive the story forward or to drive a scene forward. And that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, imagine playing a story single-player game and you had 0 NPCs that gave you quests. Everything you interacted with was just your own creation. You'd get bored pretty quick if you didn't have something giving you nuggets of story to help push it forward.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay.
Exactly.
So, Sixy, what about... Run's described what quest giving is. Can you give an example of something that you have... Someone that's quest gave to you that helped your story go forward, something that you remember going, oh wow, I remember this.
Oh god.
Okay. Oh, that was okay. Apparently,
God.
That was a good question.
I just woke up 40 minutes ago, man. Do you want me to think about a quest giving moment? Oh boy.
Yeah. Come on, Sixy.
Come on.
Oh man, this is a quest right in itself. Just trying to remember shit. Actually, one quest giving was was a huge talking point between Hayes and Emma one night. Actually, while Bishop and Bird were reaming on Chloe, I was talking with Hayes or Emma was talking with Hayes, and it like was decided in that moment that Emma wanted to be like a CI and like actually do major change within the criminal community. And that's sort of like Hayes kind of gave her that quest of like, hey, just be careful about it and don't get caught, like this is what's gonna happen. and then I started doing Snap Bang Pop, and that just like I ended up getting 100,000K from Brooks for turning in guns because from Snap Bang Pop. Yeah. So that and that roped in David Probert, that roped in other people within Snap Bang Pop. That I mean, Snap Bang Pop itself was a huge point of family for a while.
Yeah.
But like that was one thing that like I can think of on the top of my head was Emma's big turning point of turning from just a petty criminal to actually wanting to put bigger names behind the bars.
Sure. And I think you kind of touched on something there of how everyone kind of sees, and since all three of us have played criminals and LEOs, this is actually a good topic as well, is how everyone on the surface sees LEO RP as, oh, it's just interacting with criminals. You're just arresting criminals. You're there to shut down their role play, or you're there to bring an end to something going on, and that's your story. And people fail to realize and remember that there's actually a lot of really good quest-giving roleplay that happens in and around LEOs that either goes unlooked because of metaguarding or goes unremembered because of other stuff that's happened. I know for a fact, having been trained by Runwild's character Bishop, he's great at quest giving from officer to officer. That happens all the time. Bishop was great at that. I mean, you as a person is, like I said, one of my favorite quest givers because that's always in your mind. You're always thinking about how can I spread more role play. So Bishop was great. In my opinion, Bishop was great at that in the LEO community. But then on top of that, Sixy mentioned how Brooks was quest giving as a cop to a criminal to spread more story beyond just, hey, rat on all your friends and I'll give you money. Like, well, no, there's more that can be happening there.
There's always more that can happen, though. You know what I mean? Like, being a cop is one thing, and that's like the job that your character has, but it doesn't stop there. You still try and build relationships within the, you know, criminal or civ population, as it were. Yeah. And then within that, it's what else can you do? Right? Because I'm getting this money, right? Obviously, criminals are tacking on money how they have it, and you know they're getting enough there, but they're working on things for their own story, whether it's whether it's criminal activity and they want to start up like this whole crime family or whatever, or if it's something like it's a legit business. There are things that you can do to help drive some of their story forward as a cop. And give that out. At the same time, though, I go off duty on any one of my cops, and I do it there too. You kind of need to. That helps drive you. Yeah, I mean, it helps drive you forward. It helps drive them forward, and then you can start including other people, right? So it's not just you; it's everybody else around you. And I think that's one thing a lot of people kind of take for granted with roleplay is the fact that I'm only the main character in my story.
Yeah, exactly.
If I sit next to you, I've got two main characters. I've got you because you're the main character in your story, and I've got me. And sometimes you just have to kind of give up that main story spotlight for a few because someone else needs that spotlight to tell their side of the story.
Exactly.
And then they've included you, right? So you've included me in your story. I'm including you in my story. And then, you know, we have this mutual friend who's over here, and now we're including them. I mean, it's just this cross-pollination of different players, and most people don't think about that.
Well, most people fail to realize, especially new people into the RP community, people who've been doing it for a few years start to realize this rather, I won't say quickly, but over time realize it and start to take it to heart. But a lot of people don't realize that RP is not just, as you said, you're the main character of the story and it's all about you. That is true in your little universe. But when you when you step into the roleplay community and you step into a roleplay server, it is no longer just about you. Yes, you are a quote main character, but you are now taking place on a stage of 32, 64, 120, 300 other quote unquote main characters. Now, granted, there's some really good people out there that I know of, like Let's Fill HD is a good example. He is somebody that he's told me many times. He plays Ernst Schneider as his guy on FAM. He's a news reporter. He solely plays he solely plays Ernst to push other people's story. He doesn't have a story in and of himself. He fully acknowledges this and is like, no, I don't have a story. My existence is to help further other people's stories. To me, that's still the story. You're still basically a character who's out there pushing other people's stories and helping them out. That is a prime example of giving roleplay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's very rare to see that. Wombax in chat says most players take LEO for granted and think that they are to support roles to support their stories. If cops could get some more RP time instead of just constantly responding to the same bank robbery, some amazing arcs could evolve. That's very true. And it's true because Runwild's a perfect example. He came in when he was leading the department back on FAM.
Yep.
And
I'm so not a blip chaser.
What? No, but you were a huge proponent. Immortal, thank you by the way. You were a huge proponent. Of pushing off-duty roleplay, of playing characters, not mechanics.
Yeah, no, and that was a really big thing for me. Fam had a long history that started back on SOE and then came over to Family, where people were playing these cops, and they ended up being like enforcers for the server. And myself and a few other people that were playing cops at the time really didn't want to keep that going. And I was like, I'm not going to be this mechanic cop. It's not going to happen. And so I stopped being a blip chaser. That was one. And started having more off-duty time and having a well-rounded character. And I think that just kind of caught on. And on Twitch RP, I'm the same exact way, where I have a character whose job is now the sheriff of the Los Santos Sheriff's Department.
There you go.
That didn't take long. That didn't take long at all. But now, right, to kind of still do off-duty time is hard, because I don't put in as many hours on cop as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I still go off duty. And what's really funny is right now, right, so my character lives down the street from a group called the Bandits.
Mm-hmm. Which
is a criminal organization. But they've already worked on her house, and they've already done the locks, and they've already done they've already given her quote unquote free cable. And she's like, whatever, it's fine. But she goes hang out on the block with them, and because she lives by herself now. And they're right by the beach, so she's always walking by doing that other stuff. But it's those types of moments, right, where you realize you're not the main character of what's going on in that one, and you're being a support character.
Yeah.
And it's fun to do that and to have that little flip, because they're not like this main focus of her story, but they were a happy accident for it, because they've made it really fun to kind of be around there and note that, they know when they see her, they hear her yelling, during a 1080 chase, that they're just like, shit, it's that character. It's Allie. I don't want to shoot. I'm going to shoot your tire. I don't want to shoot you.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot your tire. And she ends up not getting shot at, because that's their neighbor.
Yeah.
But having those reach out moments, right, with other groups and other characters enables you to kind of extend your story and extend your reach. And you really start to see the impact that you have on other characters when you have those conversations and you help drive other things forward for everybody else. And people just forget that, right? They just forget to kind of take a beat and stop playing that particular part of your character and relax a little bit, and see what else happens when you say yes.
Okay. It's actually funny you mentioned that, because that was one of the points I wanted to talk about, was the concept of yes and how that is kind of a foreign thing to get into with roleplay, and for a lot of new people. So Sixy, question for you: if someone was to say, well, what does it mean to say yes and? Aren't you just saying yes to roleplay? If you had to quickly sum up what yes and means to somebody, what would you say to that?
You're adding more to it. You're adding on to it. Instead of someone just coming up like, hey, do you want to go hit an ATM? I'd be like, yes, and let's make sure that we are in crazy fucking outfits while we do it.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
Let's make the cops smile, right?
And to be honest, as a cop, that's one of the best things to have happen. Is like you've just come from a stressful situation to something, and you're like, oh man, I gotta go to this ATM robbery, and you show up and you find Emma Amato and her crew dressed as snow elves from some thing, and they just look ridiculous, and you're like, oh dear, this is gonna be crazy. Like it changes the dynamic instantly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay. So can you? I'm trying to think of like an example of a yes and situation that I've been in, that I can distinctly remember, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Haven't you ever been in a 1080 where you're yelling at the person who's driving?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's
a yes and.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
That is 100% a yes and.
Yep.
Like I don't think it was either Emma Mato or Chloe or both. On Bishop, right, where I'm constantly you should really just give up on driving because you suck at it. And I mean the back and forth that just happens, right? That's a yes and.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's an easy one, right? It's an easy one for a cop.
Yeah.
Right, but the other one that's really fun is when you're having guns drawn,
Oh my gosh,
And,
yes,
and,
yes,
and no one's shooting.
No one's
It's
shooting,
Just this
yep.
back and forth that's going on right now because at any moment, right, it's just bap one shot's gonna stop that role play of yes and.
I've been in a few of those situations, and I live as a cop. I live for those moments because everybody pulls guns and start firing, and I'm not mad. It's understandable. Guns come out, you don't know if the other person's gonna pull the trigger, and it happens. But those golden moments when it's a yes and, like Run said, when it's a yes and where the guns come out and shots aren't fired, and it's this super tense situation of, are they gonna pull the trigger first? Am I gonna pull the trigger first? Are they gonna hit me? Am I gonna hit them? And I mean, they're so good. Like even in my McNeil highlight video that I made for when I start streams on him, there's a quick scene in there, and it's a very short clip, but in reality, it was a lot longer. And it was this standoff I had with one of Mighty's, I think it was Mighty's character, and he had the hand cannon. He had that marksman pistol. That's the one-shot gun. That's like literally an instant. Yeah. And we were standing off doing this little like tango near the Alta parking lot. And I was trying to talk to him, he was trying to talk to me, and then just boom, and he downs me. I wasn't even mad, like, because first off, it was impressive. It was a one-hit down from a full health.
Right.
But second, it was like, McNeil lost. It's just simple as that. He was having this back and forth, and he didn't think the guy would shoot, and he shot, and that was the end of it. And it's just so good. I love those moments.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
They're really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
They're so much fun.
I'm trying to think of some other ideas of, because part of this topic that I want to discuss today that we're already going through is tips and tricks for people to try. And we've already kind of discussed some ways of like, as you mentioned with your characters on Twitch RP and with Sixy talking about the toe stuff with Emma, just ideas that people can start to sprinkle into their roleplay to start spreading more RP. Is there anything else that's like off the top of your head that like, oh, this is something, it may not even necessarily be related to this exact topic, but the concept of spreading more roleplay? Is there any like examples that you can think of right at the top of your head of things you'd like to see people doing more often, or things, oh, hey, I saw this one thing once and it did really, really well, and it would be great if more people started doing it? Either of you.
Dude, just don't be selfish.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Don't be selfish with your roleplay. So you start off with this one little group of people, right? And you start off with this group of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the 3 of you, and you're going on. So we did this like scavenger hunt on Twitch RP. I think it was for Easter. I cannot remember. And I was on Rocky at the time. And so it was just 3 of us that were going around looking for these little Easter eggs, literal Easter eggs inside of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, this is gonna be great. They're like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, we're getting a tour bus. Let's make money on this.
Nice.
and so I ended up not making money on it. I didn't really care. I was just having fun. And it was all about getting more people on the bus.
Sure.
Just getting more people on the bus, right? So everyone was trying to figure out these clues. Where are these eggs that are going on? And grabbing people, not literally, but trying to coach people on there to like get on the bus and you just include more and more people into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up with people that were in the bus, people that were in cars. We were caravanning around, and it started off with 3 of us.
Nice.
Like just 3.
Those are always the best things when that happens. When you start with nobody and you've got half the server involved in one event.
Well, and then you end up doing some sort of makeshift tour, which you just have, Milton with.
I was just going to say
yes.
Milton, yeah, yep.
Well, so take that concept, right, of what I learned from Milton, which was to include people in that role play, and then have not just the bus, but have cars, bikes, everybody else kind of keep going around you, and you're legitimately just keep giving all this role play, and you keep including everybody. I think that's something that's it's pretty big, right? It ends up pretty big.
Yeah.
But it starts really small with just like, try and convince one other person to go with you to do X. Just one.
Yeah.
And if that one says, no, I can't, I'm going to do this, and be like, oh, okay, no problem, maybe next time. And just keep their number for next time.
Yeah.
And then go back to them because they might say yes.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want to try and get them to say yes.
For sure. Sixy, what about you? What are some things that you've seen? Because Ren said don't be selfish, and he gave an example of the tour bus idea that basically anyone who's seen Milton do building knows he is the king of including people in roleplay. Because I've literally watched his streams where I've seen him just walk down the street on Kiki, and he sees a person he identifies as a player and comes up with any excuse in the book to involve them in his roleplay, even if it's literally just insulting them from across the street with his fantastical lines. And make them fall over laughing. Like, it doesn't matter. Yep. He will include you in his roleplay.
I've been victimized for that one.
We've all been victimized by that one.
Who's been victimized by Kiki?
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, everyone would show me on the doll. Like, it's yeah. Sixy, what are some examples of some things that you think would help teach other, or help kind of encourage people to start including others in their roleplay, or some tips and tricks you either figured out yourself or observed from others?
One always good reminder is to don't be afraid of new people. Like, don't
Oh
like
yeah.
even whether it be new to the server, new to roleplay, new to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just like be that person that helps them learn to love roleplay. That's a big one for me because like people from fan public help me learn how to love roleplay.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be like it can be as simple as that. Just be open to meeting new people, whether it be new that you've never seen on the server before, or new to roleplay. Just be open to that. And then the second thing on a smaller scale is, while your character can be like obviously have morals and stuff, don't make those morals say no to roleplay.
Yes, that's a
And
very
like
good point.
what I mean about this is that last week, the Omens hurt one of Sid's closest friends and daughters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, I literally had a conversation with the president. We hung out and we had like actual good RP.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like my character, there was like a reason behind it. She wanted to just get a good rapport going with them.
Mm-hmm.
She understood why he did it. Like, just because like a character did something in roleplay that was kind of, or they're criminals, like it can be as simple as that, or they're criminals and you're playing a civ. They always, you never know what roleplay will come from a character that has done you wrong before, or has hurt you in the past, or has hurt someone you love in the past. Like having that's a smaller scale than what Run did, what Run's example was, but just like those one-on-one conversations to grow the RP, because
and it's,
who knows,
it's still a great, even though it's not necessarily smaller, it's just different. And the reason I say that is because I actually have had this exact conversation. I think it was either on the podcast or in just a discussion one time before about having a character with morals. And my character Paco that I played for years was gated by that. I shot myself in the foot by building this wall around Paco's personality of these specific key point morals that he had developed in his character. It was great for storytelling, horrible for a criminal. It literally locked me into these corners and made it very hard to roleplay around certain things because I had put him in this little bubble where if these little points got hit, he would veer away from it, or he would do very specific things that made it very hard to roleplay. And I learned very quickly, or actually it took me a while, but I learned it was kind of an overnight reaction of like, oh, this is not okay. You can't do this with a character. I mean, you can, but be prepared for it to really be hard to play that character because now you've got these walls you've put up for yourself. And I think that somebody that I think that does that very, very well of what Sixy said of your character is upset at someone for X, Y, or Z, but you still choose to roleplay rather than just walk away. And I think someone who does that is Chief. Chief does that very, very well. Bodaka was very, very good at that, where he'd have a grudge with somebody, but he would still roleplay. You'd tell through /me's, you'd tell through subtle lines that he would drop. You would tell through his actions that he was still roleplaying. He wasn't just walking away and leaving you there. He was still involved in the RP, but you could tell his character's not happy. But he's still roleplaying, he's still going. And that's something that's very tricky to do. And a lot of people, just like Sixy said, is if somebody does something to you, you're instant conflict or you walk away. And while conflict is great for roleplay, I feel like there's a dancing act that needs to happen between, oh, you're pissed at this character, I'm going to go attack them, and there's still conflict, but we can draw more out of this. Kind of like what Ron was saying with the shooting, with the gunfights, is instead of just going to guns right away, of actually having a banter going back first before guns start coming out.
No.
No.
It was just all about understand. No, I was just.
All I heard was no, and I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. Jeez.
I know.
Okay, that's a Minnesota thing. Leave me alone. So it's all about understanding why the character did what they did, right? Like, the reason why the Bad Omens attacked that person was because she had abandoned the club. They were literally bleeding her out of the club. Like, I understood that. Sid understood that. So why take away my roleplay from myself and the other character and not hang out with them when I could A, build a rapport, B, get a better understanding, C, build a friendship similar to like what Ron said about Allie and the bandits, where maybe the Omens will hesitate to shoot me in the future, right?
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, and I agree. Like,
or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Yeah, exactly.
No,
But,
I mean, they shot me last night, so it's fine.
yeah, but when is your character not getting shot? Come on.
Actually, it was FDF that shot me last night, not Omens.
Either way.
Either way, we just get shot.
All the time. So
no OIS paperwork.
I mean, that's a quick way to avoid OIS. Just don't pull the trigger. There you go. Loophole. Just take the L, bruh. Take the L. Okay, so we kind of touched on this a little bit between me and Run and actually Sixy right now as well, of basically spreading roleplay through a gunfight. Now, a lot of people, and a lot of people would be right to a degree, that guns are a quick way to end a roleplay scenario. They very much can be. They can bring an end to a roleplay very, very quickly. But what is your guys' take on melee and gunfights being used in roleplay, whether for good or for bad? Just because they can give some really good roleplay, but they can also end roleplay very quickly. And I'm just curious what you guys' take is on that as a pocket of roleplay around the concept of giving and taking.
Using melee weapons?
Well, either or. Like, do you are you? Because I know some people have the concept of, oh, well, melee weapons used as opposed to guns can help prolong roleplay because it's not boom boom down. But some people think, well, it's a weapon. Weapons in general will end roleplay.
A lot of that comes down to server mechanics too, right?
True,
because every
very
server
true.
kind of has their stuff set up a little differently. Where, you know, a gun that has a server that has headshot damage turned off, or it's a less it's a less thing, right? So it kind of gets down into server mechanics, which I hate.
Yeah.
But I think that your weapon of choice for the RP scene, is going to depend on your character and the scene itself, right?
Yeah.
I could have a switchblade out, and that's one thing. I could have one of the hunting knives out, and that's or a pole cue.
Yeah.
Right. I guess it just depends on the scene. You know, what does it actually call for? Does it really call for a gun, or can I make my point and drive a little bit more or get a little bit more out of it if I don't have the gun out?
Well, that's kind of what I was implying, and I guess I just didn't word it that way, and apologies on that. But basically, the concept of, like, do you guys think it's, and it sounds like you kind of agree with me, that picking and choosing your weapon as opposed to always using a gun is a lot more appropriate. That was one of the things I really took to heart with Red Dead roleplay, for the little amount of time I did it, was the gun, the weapon fits fits the character way more. It's like the cars in GTA. Every character has their car, right? In Red Dead, everybody had their weapon, and it was just kind of part of who they were. And it definitely translates to GTA, where Ann Kohler, who's in chat right now, Franklin Saint does not use firearms, but you can bet your ass if you hear his name on radio, he's gonna have a baseball bat in his hand, and you know it. Every single time he's gonna have a baseball bat, and it's just what the character has brought to the table. And it's hysterical because he's always going to swing, and you know he's always going to swing. But instead of him always having a gun and having to result in people getting shot every time, he has a baseball bat out, and it usually results in some pretty fucking hysterical roleplay.
Yeah, it was like Harry in the friggin' Harry, who played Harry Brown for years.
Oh yeah.
On Famine is now back over on No Pixel, right?
Yeah.
And the hammer.
The hammer. Yep.
You knew as soon as Harry took out the freaking hammer, it's gonna go. It's gonna go.
Yep. It's gonna go down.
It just fit, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, old character was, you know, loved switchblades. TC, my new character, that comes out tomorrow. I'm really kind of nervous. Is baseball bat.
Oh, nice.
I'm really nervous about this one. But baseball bat is the weapon.
Nice.
Du jour on that one, just because it's well, the character's from Liberty, so it's got to be a little
pool cue or baseball bat. I mean, those were your options.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. So I went with baseball bat. Yeah. So there's that. And it just, I don't know. Weapons are always kind of hard because I don't want to end the role play at the same time, right? There's sometimes sometimes they're just not listening, and you got to hit them with something.
Yeah,
and
you got to do something.
Happens. Yeah.
Well, and even with firearms involved, you can very easily use them and prolong roleplay without going, as you said, for the headshot. The headshot.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
I
missed on purpose at that.
Oh yeah. Silent Sentry was the first person to make this statement that I saw on a roleplay stream, and I've tried to stick to it ever since. And it's difficult. It's very difficult because everybody gets into the gamer mindset of gotta hit target. But he always talked about how if anyone who's ever watched Silent Sentry stream, When he's not streaming roleplay, he's dropping bodies in Rainbow Six Siege or in any number of first-person shooter games. So you know the dude can shoot. But then you get to see him in roleplay, and you will watch him purposefully miss. You'll see him aim all over the place, and people are like, why are you missing, bro? And he's like, dude, it's roleplay. We're not here to shoot people. We're here to tell stories. And it's amazing how you can prolong a roleplay scenario like that. But I was actually more referring to the concept of like using them as a threat, using them as a, shooting people in the legs or the arms instead of just going for the headshot, just to keep roleplay going. I shoot at the walls. Well, that's just because you suck at shooting, TBS. Come on. I'm kidding. But yeah.
Yeah. I think if you want to prolong a scene, you can prolong a scene with everything. It doesn't matter what you have in your hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a gun being the ultimate thing that can end the roleplay scene. So yeah, if you're gonna go out for that long dramatic, right, villain versus villain speech where I tell you
monologue,
everything, the long monologue, this is why you're here, and let me just tell you all of my plans, and then you're not gonna remember anything because this is role play. So get wrecked, nerd. That's just one of those. I don't know.
No. It's very true. Like even if you don't have to play the NLR card, and you actually like you make it out, then you get out and you're like, chat, what did we hear? I don't remember anything that just happened. I'm like, what? Yeah, that's always awkward.
I've been involved in roleplay scenes with Selvig where my character ended up getting shot down at the end of it, which I knew it was going to happen.
Sure.
I used I didn't remember anything because it was just one, I didn't really think that I needed to retaliate.
Sure.
Because it was ending like a whole storyline for him with my character, and for the next thing that I got from Selvig after the whole entire scene was over was, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. I'm really sorry. Don't be mad at me. And I'm like, it's fine. It's roleplay. We're good,
dude.
And I told him, I was like, I'm not gonna remember anything, by the way. So you're in the clear.
Yeah.
That would just be, it wouldn't have been great roleplay, and that was me taking the loss, right? Like I don't care, but his character got such a huge win from a story perspective that it was over, that he had finally found this character and shot the character and whatever, right? Like that was like the end of it for him. Meanwhile, my character's like, I don't remember crap. I don't remember shit.
Well,
so we're good.
It's funny you're mentioning the loss there, because I didn't even have that down. Man, I can't speak today as a talking point, but it's something that to be considered, how taking a loss is giving roleplay to another player. 100%. And everyone's like, oh, taking a loss sucks. It's the end of roleplay. No, it's absolutely not.
God, taking a loss is so good.
It absolutely is.
Emma is all about the loss.
Emma is all about
is all about loss, and it's wonderful. I love her.
If you don't have
based on the loss.
If you don't have a character that is set up to lose or to just really try it, just make a character that's not meant to win. Go out and make a character that says yes, so they're up for anything, and that they're okay with losing. So no banter to win. No, don't be the best shooter on the block. None of that.
Best driver. I'm the best driver. Emma.
Oh my god, you're the best driver, Emma.
We cannot lie. We're not allowed to lie here. All right.
But make those characters and just play them for like 3 hours. Just see what happens.
Yep.
Just 3, and see what happens. The change in your roleplay style is just impactful from the get-go. It's great.
One of my first characters, and I can't remember what inspired the character. I can't remember where the idea came from, but was a character I only played like once or twice on FAM, and even the only times I played him on FAM was just fucking beautiful. But his name was called Mac Quintus. He was a derpy British guy that was kind of like a street thug, but more of like, he was just kind of a derp. But on my first server, Panda, he got into all sorts of stuff. He robbed stores, he robbed ATMs, he robbed all sorts of things. But he always lost. Like, I literally designed him to lose. He just drove around in a little Mini Cooper, because we had custom cars on that server, and he had a Mini Cooper with the Union Jack on the roof, and he just literally blasted God Save the Queen as he drove away from the cops. It was amazing. But when I brought him over to FAM, the only 2 times I played him, I happened to run into Selvig on Jeffrey Connors both times. The first time I played him, I was trying to go around robbing people, knowing it was not going to end well. And the first person I robbed was Ying. Ying Fish. It was like her first day on the server, and she was a cab driver. And I tried to hold her up in a cab and make her basically force her to drive me around to commit crime at gunpoint. And it was hysterical because my character couldn't do anything because every time I went to go rob something, the mechanic wasn't turned on. Like, I couldn't rob an ATM or a store or anything. And so she was just convinced I was shit at crime. Well, then she gets a cab call to go pick up some guy. It turns out it's Jeffrey Connors, and I'm in the car, and he's like, I didn't know we're doing a rideshare thing. Drive for like 3 seconds, and I pull a gun on... Mac pulls a gun on Jeffrey Connors and tries to rob him. Mind you, this is after he has the eye patch, so this dude already looks like a badass. We end up trying to rob him. He has $5 on his person. We then he takes me up to like Paleto or something like that, and we get up there, and I think that's when I tried to rob him. And as I'm robbing him, I mentioned something about his eye patch. He goes, "Oh yeah, I lost my eye when some guy tried to rob me, and I ended up taking his gun and shot him in the face." And goes, "Mac, and here's your money back. And anything else I can get you?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you got like $20 on you, I was gonna go to Slurpee." So I end up paying him, and then it drives off. And then like 2 months later, I run into him again, and it was the same kind of interaction. We ran into each other at an intersection, and it was just the character was just born to lose, and it was just so much fun.
Yeah. It's just good times. It's just good times, man.
Well,
if you can lose, it's good. It's like trying to. I remember back on Fam I had Tyler.
Tyler.
And my little shit character. I love that dude. But you know, I mean, Jeff Connors was the one who told them to never have more than 5 Coke in your pocket at one time. Never sell more than 5. That was his rule. Right?
It's
That's
a good rule.
Tyler, and Tyler's just like, kind of take the whole entire brick. It makes more sense, dude. It's gonna take forever. And he was like, "No, you only take 5." And I was like, "Okay, fine." So I ended up doing 5 for like the first day, and I was like, "This sucks. This is not what my character would do." So I ended up taking around like 2 bricks.
Oh my god! Oh Lord, my heart. That actually hurt.
I put one in the one in the car, one in the trunk, and then the other one was on me. They're broken down into bags, and I would sell them all. And it was just I got busted one time, and it was like all the cash gone, the rest of the bags gone, but they never searched the trunk. It was great. But I still took for the loss, right? I mean, still at the time, I still had the fine. I lost the rest of the Coke. I lost the money. And then ended up coming back, and I was able to make it all back with like the other brick. I was like, hell yeah. Jeff's gonna be mad at me if I don't pay him back the $5 grand for the brick. Yo.
Dude,
I mean, it's that loss, but I mean, the cops got the win. And that was the fun part, was them being like, "You've been up here for a long time, haven't you?" "No, I've been around for like 15, 30 minutes. I don't know, maybe like an hour. I don't know anymore."
Dude, I miss
just because that's Tyler.
I miss him.
He's such a shit. He's still a shit. I just don't play him as much. Yeah, right now I don't have the time, honestly.
Doesn't that suck though, when you got all these character ideas swirling around in your head, or characters you haven't played in forever, and you just physically do not have the time to play them because you're committed to other stories? Like it's great, but it sucks.
I'm very much committed to my main character right now, who's obviously just got the sheriff's position, so she's taking that over. And
hell yeah.
Yeah, just got it. So last week it was announced that there was the vote within PD, so she got it.
Nice.
But the fun part, here's the fun part, Ian. So I first was the only person who was actually signing up to do it. And then Ravage, if y'all don't know Ravage, he's the one that runs the GTA side of SixyRP. Really amazing dude. I love role playing with him. But he put out another announcement about, hey, you don't have to have all of these qualifications. If you want to run for a sheriff, you can just do this. And then other people started signing up. So it ended up being like 6 or 7 people. Okay. So it was like more roleplay giving automatically.
Nice.
And I did one thing that was specifically for my character. And that was just like ask my character whatever questions you want, right, kind of thing. But the other thing that I did is I ended up doing a party where I think I dropped like 60 grand in game.
Jeez.
I think that's what it ended up being. Yeah.
And that's still a fair amount even on SixyRP, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So I rented out a place, and then I had that one place provide all the food and drinks for everybody that showed up. I didn't care. And then I had the other group, which was all the entertainment for like music and dancers and that sort of stuff. So I had 2 different businesses that I included in that RP that included any first responders that were on the server. I didn't care. And then we still had like members of FDF show up too.
Oh wow.
And bandits. Yeah, we still had like criminals were showing up every once in a while too. I was like, I didn't care. I just wanted more people there, just more.
Well, and the thing
And
is
so-
when you start to mix some of those players into the same environment, LEOs, criminals, civs, those can spawn their own RP stories or conflicts right there. Like, because you're throwing oil and water into the same bucket and waiting to see what happens. Like, that's exactly what you're doing.
Well, and you had one character that was literally walking around, Glitch. I think his name is Glitch. But he plays a character named G. Wilkins, and he's a criminal. And a really fun group of criminals that he runs with. And they do these heists, but they're really just derpy ass characters.
Those are great.
And he was literally like, I wonder if I could actually get them to give me $5,000. Like that, he was literally doing that out loud, right? Oh. He was doing that out loud, like trying to make it like this internal monologue. So right up behind him, right? I just went up behind him, I was like, you're not that clever to get $5,000 out of people. Try 10. And I just like messed with him that whole entire night for the rest of the night. I just, every once in a while, I would just like walk around him and say something, just trying to get him to do something else. And he started just doing it everywhere. It was so great.
That's so cool.
It was just fun.
That actually reminds me of some of the stuff that, and this is something that I've done, but I've seen many people do it. And it's the cell phone call. It's where you turn your back to the player you're talking to, and you pretend to have a cell phone call, but you play both sides of the conversation. And
yeah,
those are wonderful little silly moments. And I love doing it as a cop to criminals when they say, oh yeah, just, my boss is going to be pissed. And I'm like, okay, I'll call your boss. And the guy's like I did this to somebody who was new on the server. It was a couple months ago. I can't remember. The guy was like first day on the server, and he was, and as Immortal was saying on his stream today, he was giving me a reason to roleplay with him rather than just arrest him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like this is something that's very key, and this is something that all three of us can relate to, is when you're a cop and you interact with a criminal that's hitting an ATM or hitting a store or trying to rob a car or whatever, and they're not just like, give me a second, they get in the car and drive away, or they run on foot or whatever, but they're giving you banter. Even if it's just a bullshit story, they're giving you something to roleplay with. Yeah. And that's what he was doing. He was giving me this story about why he was doing what he was doing, about why he was in the area or whatever. So I'm role-playing right back with him. And then he starts giving me this story about how he's gonna get fired from his job. He doesn't want to get in trouble. So I told him, okay, I'll call your boss. And you could tell out of character, he was like, you can do that? Like, I just made it. Like, you can tell the gears in his head were like, the character, like, you could tell the player was like, but there is no boss character. How are you going to call him? So I turn around and I did the whole, I did this, and I pretended to talk on the phone and talk to his boss. And and it always makes my day when someone go OOC and says, then they do LOL or like, this is great or whatever, because you've broken them OOC, which is great.
Yeah.
But then you're giving them they've given you this little tidbit that they thought maybe you weren't going to do anything with, and you grab it and you do the yes and you grab it, you churn it up a little bit and give some more to it and throw it back at them and see what they do. And it's just wonderful little moments like that first off can help inspire new role players or remind people that it's okay to interact with the cops as a criminal. We're not here to just be fun police. But it also just, I mean, who knows? He could run with that boss story for the next 3 months. Like, you don't know. It's just, it could be something big.
Yep. And I think the big word that you said there was he was giving you RP.
Right?
He was giving you something.
Yeah.
To go off of instead of just like, yeah, what? I'm just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me more. Give me more, dude.
Well, and it's better, and this is something that we, because Sixy and I run together on FAM all the time with Bauer and McNeil. We're riding the same car for a while, and so we've had those shifts where we're riding around and we get that person that's just there to make a buck and they run, and you're like, oh man. But it's always fun when you get somebody who is doing something different, doing something unique, and giving you a reason to roleplay. Like, I mean, I know it kind of sucks as a cop to drive up to a scene and they instantly run. Like, I get it. You don't want to get caught. The character doesn't want to get caught. I get it. I'm not necessarily mad, but it's just kind of like, all right, I guess it's just a 1080 starter. Let's go. But it's so great when you roll up on scene of something, whether it's an ATM or whether it's a bank robbery or a store robbery, or even just someone ransacking a car, and they don't run. They start bantering. They start talking. They start giving role play. Like, it's wonderful. It's great. Because then I'll role play right back with you. Pop Jalop actually in chat, I was going to mention this earlier. He plays a character named Ambrose on FAM, and actually he does also play Ambrose on No Pixel, and he is a golden example of take the loss, give the roleplay. I mean, I've never seen Ambrose take a win ever, even if it's just taking a punch to the face and going down, but you will not walk away from an Ambrose situation without laughing your butt off every single time. It's golden examples like that.
Yeah.
Sixy, you went dead silent. Is everything good? Just making sure
you're was having some internet issues.
I was just gonna ask.
Are you better?
Somewhat.
Somewhat?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure you're still with us.
We love it here.
We love it here. It's great. Is it Spectrum? Do we need to fuck Spectrum? Is that the thing?
I think it is actually.
Oh, that's always fun. Okay, so we've talked a lot about LEO RP, but what about medical RP? I know that I don't play any medical characters. I don't think Sixy does. You had a medic for a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I had Dare.
Okay. Well, but even with that, we've all had medical RP interactions because of having cops. It gets sprinkled into our roleplay. What are some things that you've seen that really help in those particular instances that help give roleplay? Whether on either side of it, you're interacting with somebody and they're giving to you, or you're giving to them and helping go further. What are some things that you've experienced?
It's anything, honestly, right? When it comes to no matter within like medical RP, it's really anything they can give you for you to go off for something.
Yeah.
At that point, right, you're there as to like facilitate kind of their injuries or them getting better or them bleeding out or anything that kind of goes along that way. Even if it's, they have a bandage and you're literally giving them, a My Little Pony sticker with Rainbow Dash on it that says 20% cooler. Whatever that is, right? Anything that you can make it to where it's fun and it's funny. Or if it's the serious role play, it just kind of depends on what type of situation it is, right?
Sure.
If it's someone who just literally got knocked by a car and then you're done.
Yeah.
Then that's what you're gonna do, right? You can make it fun. If it's more of a serious situation where you're in the murder room over by the barrio, then that's gonna take a bit of a seriouser tone. So it's also kind of reading the room.
I was just gonna say reading the room.
Yeah, I mean, because it literally is that type of thing. It's the same thing with any other role play, right? You've got a Slappy, you got Tyler who bounces into a situation. He's kind of like, man, that looks like that freaking hurt. Did that hurt? And then like a person's like, slash me, stabbed 25 times. Oh shit, that really does look like that hurt. I'm gonna see myself out of that with that character.
Yeah,
that
because
is not the kind of character that needs to be there.
Well, because you either have to force yourself to tone your character down to something that wouldn't necessarily fit, or you're going to essentially ruin their roleplay by being the wrong vibe for the room, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the wrong ones.
Yeah.
But I think the important part, right, is to make sure that no matter what kind of character you're on, you can take a goofy ass character like Tyler and he can be compassionate. He can have that interaction of, let me make sure that I can at least bring it down a little bit for you so that I can call 911, have him panic because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Have him call 911, explain what happened, and I don't know, rip his shirt or take his shirt off and try and hold pressure somewhere.
Yeah.
You can always give more for that one. And then when the EMS gets there, right, then he can translate and tell you, this is what happened and this is what I saw, and these are those types of things that you can give off to give that person the RP and then transfer it to where, someone who is trained that way can actually take it over.
Yeah.
I always had good times on Dare, though. I mean, I always had fun when it came to people I was interacting with. It was always a good time.
Well, and Sixy, you've obviously haven't played a medical character like I haven't, but I've been around when your characters are like, oh, let me emotionally torture everyone on scene with my /me's, and those are great examples of things that you could like. I mean, I'm trying to think of an exact example of when Bauer's been down or that I've been around her, because that's usually the character that I'm most around with Sixy, but can you think of situations where you took something that was kind of minor and through a couple /me's you changed the entire tone of the scene and provided roleplay for more people?
I think Sixy probably could. I know I can.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was gonna say I was asking Sixy, but there we go.
I heard. Don't worry.
Okay.
That's a hard one. I do it so often, actually. Because it depends on, like, I even did it last night.
Okay.
I ICU'd Sid last night, and one of the bigger reasons I didn't make it like a serious injury, but I did it because Sid had promised someone she would come home tonight because she had gotten into a fight with one of her wives. One of her plethora of wives. She got into a little fight with them, and she's like, I'm just not gonna come home. I'm not gonna deal with it. She kind of runs away when it comes to that type of shit because of her backstory. And she made a promise to one of her friends that she would go home. And
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually downed.
Oh, there she is.
So I was gonna make it a little bit more dramatic than it was. But hello, what was the last thing you heard?
You told a friend tell you that you were gonna go home?
Yes. And then it went...
Yeah. No, and I told her I would go home, so that's why last night when I got shot, and I was like a sliver of health away from actually like being downed.
Okay.
I decided to have her work on all the medics and not realize how hurt she was. And thus, but then I got hit by a car and I got downed anyway, so locals be wildin', man.
Actually, someone in chat, I think it was Tial, brought up a perfect example of Sixy taking something that was nothing, essentially, and going, oh, look all the roleplay I can give with these few typing commands. Scout? Can we talk about... I mean, like, Scout got Salt to admit to a murder. Got chat. Sixy played a dog and got a human to admit to murder. Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, this is the sort of stuff I'm talking about.
I literally, like, as Scout, she was, like, confessing all of these things, and I did /me that I think made her, like, decide it, and it was just literally /me looks at McNeil, and then back at Salt, and like I don't know if she just took that as like, oh, everything's gonna be okay if you talk to McNeil, because McNeil would do it right, and so like I don't know.
I mean, but that's what I mean.
Like
Like
people who have internet work on exactly.
But no, but that's
I roleplay that way too often. Okay, I'm done with that storyline.
That's a dead horse right there. But no, but that's what I mean. Like, you can... she could have just laid there as the dog and let Salt do her story, right? And let her confess the things to the dog, and that's the end of it. But all she had to do was say yes and that's what she did. She had the dog sit there and do her thing, but then tied /me. You didn't even have to use a microphone. And the story not only got bigger, it involved way more people. It lasted like 3 weeks longer, all because pretty much essentially of /me. That is a golden example of a yes and scenario, in my opinion.
I don't know. It's not that hard. Like with Scout, like she just gave like little like mannerisms or like little rewards of like a kiss or like a cute moment of whenever she was saying something that would be the right path, like in Scout's mind, right? And then it can be as simple as that. Yeah.
Well, and it comes dog RP, best RP. I mean, I would agree. That's one of the reasons I love the canine system on FAM. It's great. But I mean, when it comes to including roleplay, I'm including people in roleplay. It can literally be the smallest things, and I think that's very important because people sometimes think they have to go to these big, grandiose gestures, these big events to include people in roleplay, and it can literally be something small. It can be a conversation, it can be a car ride, it can be a Twitter post, it could be any number of things, and you're including people in that roleplay, which goes back to the quest giving conversation we were having. UA, what I've always loved being a part of is when people really engage with the therapy RP I've done, because I try and push them to explore avenues of their character they might not have considered. That's a good point. I've never had characters go through therapy RP before. It's come close, but it's never happened. That's a really good point, is kind of turning the tables on the character and kind of making them look at things from a different avenue. I know that was something that happened quite a bit when Cherry used to do tarot readings on FAM. Those were always like, to me, those were quest-giving moments. Those were great moments where you'd go and you'd interact with her character, and obviously it's all in roleplay, and sometimes it's probably complete BS, depending on what mood Cherry's in that day, but they're great because you can take those moments and spin them and go, well, my character's been wanting to do this, but I've been hesitating. I should just go and do this because blah, 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 blah. And those are great, unique sort of quest-giving moments, in my opinion. Okay, so let me look through my little ideas here. Or Victor and his palm readings. Yeah, Victor and his palm readings, exactly. So, So one thing that we've kind of, I mean, obviously there's positive sides to all of this, but some of the negative effects of not doing these things are pretty severe. And I think that Sixy and actually Run kind of both touched on this, is the concept of like not including people, like putting up barriers around your characters and kind of quote unquote gatekeeping things. And there's a lot of downsides to doing that. Like Sixy was saying, you lock yourself out of roleplay. Run mentioned if you are saying no to things, then things just end. Can you guys think of scenarios where you yourself made a decision, you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that, and it did damage to one of your stories? Like it didn't. You made a mistake and realized that you should have done something different.
Oh, sure.
Run's like, how long you got?
Pick a character, any character. Which one you want to start with?
I mean, I don't know. Just it's a bishop.
Double tap the character while they were down.
Oh shit! I remember that.
Yeah, I mean,
remember that.
That's literally it, right? I mean, that was a coming off of a 24-hour stream.
Ooh.
Right, 24-hour last thing. And here's the bad part, right? The amount of role play that was going to generate within that gang was really going to be fun. But yeah, that was probably it. That was probably like the one that was just done, and then that was done for the character. But I was actually fine with it. Like, did it end up bad for the character? Sure. Yeah. Did any really roleplay get generated after that? No. Yeah. No, it really didn't. I was fine with it. I was like, whatever, it's all good. But yeah, no, I mean, I still wouldn't change it.
Sure.
100% still wouldn't change it. It's nothing I would want to do. I like the character and how they turned out.
Well, and sometimes, and this is something that, and like as an example of myself, sometimes you get to a point where you make a decision as a player because you don't want to let go of a character, and you do something that is either out of character for the character, kind of doesn't make sense for the story, or is just clear as day an OOC motive for an in-character thing just because you don't want to lose the character, and that's damaging to a story.
Yeah,
I've done it many times, and and almost all of them happened on Paco, and I have made a lot of mistakes on that character and realized his story lasted way longer than it needed to. It should have been over at one key point. It would have been amazing as an ending, and I was like, no, I want to hang on to the character. I want to keep playing and blah blah blah.
Sometimes your character just outlived their purpose, and then people hold on to them, and they don't. The characters have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yep. Well,
and some people are just, I don't want to get rid of the character. Yep. I get it.
Oh, we've all been there. Anyone who's played roleplay has had at least one or two characters they don't want to let go of.
Yep.
Because, I mean, and like Ron said, it has a beginning, middle, and end. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you try and go past that end, it's like watching a sequel of a movie that should have ended at one. And you're like, ew, this is gross. Because that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I remember that Paco's story should have ended when he got brought in by Dat Rage Guy's character. I think it was Thorn? Detective Thorn, if I'm not mistaken. And it should have been over. That night when we got out to the lake, I should have shot him. He would have shot me. Lauren would have gone to prison. That would have been the end of the story. And it would have been beautiful. But I played a different card and it still could have ended. But then I was like, cool, I got away. I can keep going. And it's like, no, that should have been the end. And it is what it is. But you learn those lessons and you can apply them later.
21 Month Street.
Sixy, what about you? What's an example of something you can think of one of your characters that you made a decision and then in hindsight you're like, ew, that was a bad decision that hurt the story more than it helped the story?
You know, I'm torn about this one, about the situation that came to my mind when you said this. And that was when Emma decided to help try to kill Emmett. And
tried to help kill who?
Emmett. Bukowski.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When Emma made that decision to... The reason why I'm saying it didn't turn out as bad as I thought is because of the fact of the roleplay that came from it with actually Run and Zakel. When Emma's interactions between those two, her, like, parent figures at the time, like, the issue I had with it is that I don't think Emma would have ever actually done it, like, and I did it because of, like, the roleplay, like what would happen, but, like, there should be some points where, like, you're like, my character would never do that, and actually actively trying to kill someone should have been Emma's limit.
Yeah.
So that is why I think of it as a regret situation more than a successful storyline, because while yes, it was a successful storyline, so much RP came from it, but as, like, a person that plays Emma, a daily perspective, that was an option that I should have said no on.
Yeah. Yeah, those are tough. Instead of the moments where instead of saying like saying no to something, saying yes to something can sometimes also be detrimental to a character or a story if done, as you say, in this particular case, didn't make sense for the character.
Right.
And
yeah, and roleplay came from it, like I said, and maybe that's because like of the people that it involved, they did a good job of like spinning more roleplay off of it.
Sure.
The fact that Bishop was the one that arrested Emma was like really the cherry on top. And it just, yeah. The no but. Yeah, you're right, Zach. It's no
Zach
but.
made a really good point. There's
At
yes
that point,
and then there's no but, and both of them keep to a character but push story.
Yeah. So yeah, I was more stuck on. I didn't know what I could do with a no but at the time, and it was just so fast. I was like, I'll just do it. So.
Well, at the end of the day, we're a bunch of nerds that play video game characters in a fictitious world to tell stories. We're not perfect. We're not actually cops. We're not actually therapists. We're not actually medics. We're gonna make little hiccups and screw ups because it's a video game. And the important thing is working with what we have and remembering at the end of the day, like Run said at the beginning of this, we are main characters, but in our story, in a universe of multiple characters where everybody's a main character. It's a big overarching story. And as long as you can remember that key point, at the end of the day, even if you make a hiccup or a screw up, the story can still continue for not just yourself, but for everybody else. Honestly, biggest regret was not leaning into the Pimp a Plano a bit more. Oh my gosh. Fucking hell. So what is it? So since Zach brought it up, that's a good, because we talked about yes and. What's an example? What can we think of examples of no but that have helped spur roleplay or helped prolong roleplay instead of just capping it? I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Do you guys have anything? No but.
It's a no but?
Oh,
Yeah.
But.
I mean, that comes down to some of the like key things that those decisions that could it comes down to those things that could possibly impact your character. Right?
Yeah.
Like, they could do this. No, but they could do this. What about this? No, but they could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess what you have to kind of think of is it's a yes, but right in a conversation back and forth. Well, yes, but we could do this with your character boundaries. That's what the words I was going to.
There you go.
Right. With the boundaries that you have set for your character. If you make them too rigid, right, they're never going to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not going to learn. They're not going to expand. Right.
Or make mistakes and have that affect them, have affect the character as well.
But if you do the no but conversation, for Emma, Emma really wouldn't go murder somebody. Bishop really wouldn't double tap somebody. That was Run after 24 hours. that was a Run.
Yeah.
That was a Run decision.
That was OOC bleeding into the in-character world.
Oh yeah, I was tired.
Yeah.
I was tired and yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a big shootout, but it was really fun. 10 out of 10 would do it again anyway. But right.
Noted.
But for the character to be able to look at it, right, and to go to some of the decisions that Bishop had made previously, those moral boundaries, those guidelines that you set up to kind of keep your character where your character is becomes the no but. Bishop wouldn't be would Bishop ever take class 3s from the armory? No, but he might take a class 2.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's a no, but and then it's like some sort of like story thing has to happen to trigger that large of a move. You know what I mean? Like for me, I've always had these things. Well, no, McNeil would, like, for example, take class 3 from the armory and use it. But if such and such happened and that line is crossed somewhere else, his thought process is no longer on saving his career and doing what's right. It's taking care of his, loved ones or avenging somebody for whatever because of his past or whatever. There's like story sprinkled in there that would cause those sort of events to happen, fully understanding that shit's going to blow up in his face.
Yeah.
By the way, chat real quick. We lost Sixy. Her internet just died, so she'll be back.
No.
Yeah, I just saw her dip from voice chat, and she's offline in Discord, so I'm sure she'll be back.
Darn you, Spectrum!
Fuck Spectrum, man.
Fuck it. She's probably resetting the router.
Probably.
I think those are things that you have to think about, though, right? I mean, it's those guidelines that you put around your character. Just try not to make them too rigid.
Yeah.
That is like the downfall of some of us when we first start role-playing characters, whether it's tabletop or otherwise, is to make these characters so they're so rigid that you're not gonna have any fun with them long term. That's the hard part.
And it's difficult, because especially since you just mentioned someone who's new to it, whether it's tabletop or GTA or whatever. You think, okay, well, my character, because everyone tells you, make a character with flaws, make a character with flaws. Absolutely true. The problem is, if you go too far into the flaws, you're putting up a bunch of barriers and gates to yourself that you aren't going to realize until you're in a roleplay scenario, and you're like, well, I made my character have a flaw with drugs. Okay, cool. Now you got this avenue of open roleplay, but if you've gone too, like, for example, I go back to Paco. I put up all these gates and barriers around, he won't do this, he won't do this, he won't do this, because I have these flaws as who he is as a criminal. But then I'm now in these roleplay scenarios where it's like running into glass doors all the way around me. Like, oh, I'm gonna go down this. Oh, I can't do that because I made my character do this. And it's like, okay, and that's why I say I shot myself in the foot. And you can, break through those barriers, but you have to do it right. You have to make sure it would make sense. You can't just go, you can't roleplay a character for 3 months being like, oh, my character is, will never shoot at cops because of this big story moment. And then keep doing that, and then for 3 months, and then you wake up one day like, fuck it, I'm bored, I'm gonna go shoot a cop. Like, wait a minute, where was the story to make that decision a thing? Like, where did the roleplay happen to actually have that be a thing, rather than you just waking up one day and being bored? And yeah, exactly, Pimus. He won't do this, but that's the key thing. The but or the and is the key thing to help shift the roleplay from, oh no, but look at this side path we can go down.
I won't kill one, but I might take him hostage. I might take him hostage. Right, and it still gives the threat that you might kill him, but you're not going to. Yeah,
and it's important to to keep yourself open to those opportunities and options, especially from an OOC perspective. But then understanding how to apply it in character, and understanding that, well, my character's not going to do this, and I have these options that I can go down and still keep it fun for everybody, because you don't want to go too crazy. One of my early characters was like, nah, I'm gonna be a violent crim. Ended up joining Grove. Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
That'll do
it.
It
Happens.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's amazing.
Well, and it happens if you just kind of go with the roleplay too, right? That's the yes.
Yep.
That's the yes part of it.
Exactly. Well, and that's somebody else giving you the roleplay, and then you deciding how you want to take it. Now, obviously, everyone is very comfortable and very aware of how to take roleplay, because it's a video game. We're used to that. We're used to the game giving us things, and we're taking it all. We're not used to flipping it around and giving it to other people, because that's not how video games are built. But learning how to take those moments from other people and then either passing it along to somebody else or spreading it around, that's the key.
Yeah.
And she's back.
Welcome back, Sixy.
It came on my phone.
Oh, well, hello.
That's fine.
That works. We were just talking about the no but, and basically of like, well, a character won't do this, but he will do this, and learning how to work around or through those barriers and gates that have either popped up for you in roleplay or stuff you've built up for your characters.
I don't know if I have a no but situation, like, thing in my repertoire.
Sure. Well, what's something that, like, what's a barrier okay, well, let's do this. What's a barrier you've built for one of your characters that you ended up either pulling down or going around? Like, in any of your characters, in any of your storylines, is there a barrier that you ever put up for one of your characters that you either worked through or around, whether because you realized it shouldn't have been there, or because roleplay just happened?
It was Emma's aversion to drugs.
Okay.
Because of her backstory, she was written that her brother had died from an overdose, and that she didn't want to like touch drugs, but game mechanics and the way RP went, it kind of more morphed into she just didn't use them herself.
Okay.
So it went from like not touching them to being fine with like touching and selling it, just not using it for herself, just because it helped with role play.
Sure. It
helped with story, and helped with just being a little bit more flexible as a character.
Sure. Well, and because we are role-playing in the Grand Theft Auto environment, drugs are a huge component, whether you're a cop and you're trying to remove them, or a criminal and you're trying to sell them. If you cut yourself off from the door of drug RP at all because of an aversion to them, whether because a sibling OD'd or the character struggles with them. If you don't know how to roleplay that properly, you basically just cut yourself off from an entire avenue of both mechanics and story that a lot of server players are going to focus around, because it's a criminal world and it's going to involve drugs. And that was something that like Tease and I dealt with on Paco and Lauren for a long time, because Tea's character was just consumed with this concept. Well, not consumed, but it was a large part of her character was the drug scene because of her character's backstory. And my character was similar, but for different reasons. And putting up some of those walls for other reasons ended up hurting our character's story, because we didn't want to. We were trying too hard to fit into the culture of the criminal underworld at the time, and we weren't able to tell a story. We were basically just a mechanic at that point. Run, what about you? Because you kind of already mentioned it, but is a time when you had like a barrier or a wall put up for one of your characters and you ended up either going to go through it or around it because of roleplay, or because of you realized something was wrong?
Oh yeah, I mean, you tend to make those types of mistakes for characters way early on, and I did. I put up a couple, like I did my first character on FAM. My first character on FAM, which was not the one that most people think of. It was not Maxine. Maxine was not my first character on FAM.
I think I actually knew that. I don't know why. I said I think I knew that, but I can't think of why I know that.
Yeah, I made another character before I really started getting into FAM. I just wanted a character that would kind of be more antisocial, a little bit stalkerish. Which is not really fun RP, but it was kind of just that he just watched.
Sure.
And it's because it was what I was doing. So my big blocker was large groups, like any large group. And back then, right, it was a 32 slot. There were nothing but large slots. There was nothing but groups that were around. It was a huge blocker. And I made him very antisocial, and was just out on the outside of it. And it did not that character did not last long.
Yeah.
Because it was not. Now I could do that character now and leave that up, but I would have to put there would have to be breaking points within that would make it viable. You know what I mean? To where it would if these conditions were met, then it would be fine. Or if not. And you could even do a little fun stuff and make it to where it's a dice roll. To where it's to lessen it up a little bit. But yeah, I've definitely put up some barriers before.
Well, and that makes sense though from a first character standpoint, because you're trying to learn the mechanics of a server, you're trying to learn the culture of the server, and being an observational character is really key. But then the balance of that is, well, okay, cool. Now that I've learned all this stuff, I now have an antisocial hermit that stands on the outskirts and watches everyone roleplay.
And I can't do a damn thing with you. Nope. And I put up other types of barriers, whether it's professional barriers inside of the type of job that the character wants to have, or barriers that are barriers or boundaries. I think you can kind of interchange them. Just depending on what it is. But I mean, I have currently with my main character Allie, I have boundaries on that character right now. Based on things that have happened, that have kind of walls have gone up with that particular character, for good reason. And because the other person, right, the other part of that partnership that I had, was killed. So I went ahead and I made barriers for that particular thing, to where no one's really going to break into that shell for a long time.
But that makes sense though from a story standpoint. Yeah, and that makes sense from a certain story standpoint, because it happened in roleplay. It's not like you wrote the character beforehand going, I'm going to put up all these barriers. Something actually transpired in character, in story, that then shaped your character. I mean, to me, that's almost better, because it's a story. You're letting the roleplay happen and your character's flowing with that story. Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the big point, right? If you make it yourself, then you're gonna lock yourself in. If it happens within the role play, then you can easily role play it in, role play it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it makes it better for me anyway.
Well, that comes down to the whole, because I've had this conversation with people before, the difference between in-game canon and headcanon, basically, of stuff that you've just written about your character that never technically happened. It just happened in their story, and you're barricading yourself behind a wall you yourself have put up, as opposed to actual roleplay transpiring, moving forward, and be like, oh shoot, my character almost died because someone injected them with drugs. Probably not going to be a big, this is probably going to be a big quintessential moment for the character, and rolling with that because it happened to them.
Yeah. Yep. I've had stuff that I've written in for the character that actually went from, and this is the fun part, right? Because I have like Maxine, who was the older sister of Allie.
Yeah.
And so to say that that Maxine always said that Allie was dead, to the point that I had a custom tattoo done, right, for Maxine's character. And so that was in there. And so to then have that as one of Allie's main catalysts for becoming law enforcement was how Maxine always said that she died, which was in an accident in the basement for cooking meth.
Okay.
So I made that into a catalyst for that's how Allie got out of that part of the family and into something else.
Oh.
And so that was my translation between it. So it's her big no, that's no, she's not dead. That is how she got out, but she's not dead.
Gotcha.
And so that kind of translates some fun stuff that you can do, and then everything else is in character. But I also try not to do a whole lot that's like out of character writing, unless I'm on vacation or something that I like send them on vacation to somewhere.
Oh yeah, no, that happened. Like anyone, well, in my opinion, everyone should be comfortable doing that instead of having to roleplay everything out in a server, allowing some written material to inject itself into the character's story. I mean, I've done that with all of my characters at one point or another. Like, I'm playing another character for a bit, and then I swap back over, and it's like, well, where have they been? They've been here doing this thing for a while, and that way they're because I mean, in reality, if you go on vacation for a week, to the rest of the world, you're gone for a week, and that's just you're gone. But you're still doing shit. There's still stuff happening. It's just not visible to everybody else, and so that still affects you as a person. It can still affect your story, your character.
Yep.
Okay, so I just kind of realized we talked about quest giving and we talked about some things there. But I'm really curious because I'm kind of bad at quest giving. And I know that is a huge thing that a lot of servers sometimes lack, is having a lot of quest givers that are there to provide roleplay. And they don't necessarily, and they can be on any walk. You can have LEOs, you can have criminals, you can have civs. All sorts of people can be quest givers. What are some things that you guys can think of either that you, because we kind of talked about this, but I'm just curious if you guys got any more. Some things that you have either done yourself as examples, things that you would like to see more of, things that you have seen other people do and want to see more of, things like that. Just any kind of stuff about quest giving that would help somebody who either wants to get into that form of roleplay or is just curious about it, getting into the world of roleplay. Anything, just because that is a huge thing of giving roleplay as quest givers, because that's all they're doing is giving roleplay.
Sixy, you want to go first?
What? Can you repeat the question?
The question essentially is what are some things that you have either seen, experienced, or done yourself in and around quest giving that you could give as advice to new people who are trying to get into it or are curious about it, or just anything about quest giving that you think would be more helpful to the roleplay community?
I mean, I don't consider myself that great of a quest giver.
Okay.
But what I would recommend is it goes to the basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do everything yourself, right? And you need to be open to adding more people, especially people you may not know or not know very well, into your roleplay, because that is opening up a little thing of trust, because people want their RP to go a certain way sometimes, and you can't have any sort of expectation of where your story's going to go, because once you do that, you start making it less special. If you try to control the outcome of a situation or how a story's going to go so much that it's not, that you have a certain end goal to it.
Yeah.
And you'll be upset if it doesn't get to that end goal, that's too much.
Yeah. Scripting a story in any capacity is dangerous. It's very smart to have a goal, but going, hey, I want it to happen in this order, in this timeline, is dangerous, because you're locking yourself into your own private story, and you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because what's that old adage, every military plan is only good as its first step, or something like that, and as soon as you've gotten past step one, it's all going to fall apart. Same concept. You can start down the line of story that you want for your character, but as soon as you hit that first step, it's anybody's game. Anything can happen to you at that point. RDR quest giving felt easier than GTA quest giving. I can get behind that. I think that's actually pretty true.
The medium. It's the medium, right?
Yeah, it's the medium, 100%.
Quest giving in Atlas was a heck of a lot easier than doing it in GTA.
I think GTA as a whole is tricky for quest giving because everything's so accessible because A, it's in modern time. So if you need to take a trip from, I mean, good grief, going from Los Santos to Paleto takes 2 minutes in a decent car or 5 minutes in a decent car, whatever. Whereas going on a quest, a legitimate quest in Red Dead or Atlas or anything where your mode of transportation is your 2 legs or a horse, is going to take longer. It takes time. It's literally going to turn it into a quest. So instead of going, oh, I need to go pick up, you know, a lockpick, and the only place I can get it is in Paleto, I'll just go do it and I'll be back in 10 minutes, as opposed to Red Dead or Atlas, where you have a group of people, they're like, oh, we're making a supply run and we're going to be gone, or DayZ, we're going to be gone for a couple of hours. We got to go get stuff. Oh, hey, get me these things while you're there. It's small, but that's a quest. You've just given somebody something to do, and you're not having to do it yourself. It's basically taking something that, the way I say it is taking something that you could easily do yourself and having somebody else do it for the sake of story.
Okay. Actually, I have a pretty good example of this last night. And it's easier to do quest giving as a cop than it is a criminal, probably. Because last night, I dealt with a situation that was, borderline could go to court. It was like a attempted murder, execution style, and we caught one of them. And like me as like Sid, she's not court certified. She doesn't do that stuff. And so I literally just asked one of our court certified officers that were on duty. I'm like, hey, do you want to help me out with this? Because I want to make sure that we have the right steps. Can we charge them with attempted second-degree murder? And it's just as simple as that. Like, not having to do everything yourself in GTA, as in like I don't always do this by myself. If it's a bigger, I always ask for help, or say like, hey, is this the right mindset? Because A, you want the charge to stick. Yeah. And B, it gives more roleplay. I mean, like there's a certification for court for a reason. I'm going to talk to anyone that's court certified to see if this is something that they want to handle in court. Like it's that easy. I could have handled it by myself, yes, but instead I got 4 other cops involved for a brief period of time to talk about this case. So it can be as simple, like, in GTA, I think we are thinking quest giving is going to be different. It's less of go out and get this item for me and more of a, hey, I need you for a bit. I need your brain for a bit. Or
go do this task, do this thing. Yeah. I think quest giving is a little bit easier in the criminal world of GTA roleplay because as a gang leader, you can give your underlings something to go do to prove themselves.
That's true.
And it opens that door. I think it's a little bit trickier to do outside of the criminal scene. It's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's just a little bit, you have to be a little more creative on what you're asking somebody to go do or get or achieve, as opposed to in other universes like Atlas or DayZ or Red Dead, where because everything is more more rudimentary in functionality, it opens up a few more doors for some quest giving that typically wouldn't exist in a modern GTA environment. That's how I would see it anyways, because as Run said, it's the medium. It's designed a little bit differently.
Yeah. And with this, right, so with GTA and with the quest giving in GTA, it's about information, it's about locations, it's about people, other people on the server, trying to get someone to talk to so-and-so, or trying to find out who's where, and using those people to do that. It's also just meant for your character, right? Like maybe your character needs help in learning how to do X, and you know, send this person to go see if you can find someone who can do X and teach them how to do it. That's what it comes down to, right? Atlas really did, and Red Dead, right? The maps are huge. Atlas is the map is as big as the server cluster that you're in, right? And Darkside had 47,
something like
49.
That. Yeah, pretty crazy amount.
Yeah. You know, servers, and each one of them was an ocean, and if you wanted to get from point A to point B, it was going to take a while.
A few minutes,
Yeah, it was just like 15. That was our running joke. It was 15 minutes to get anywhere. But when you have those people that are quest givers, and if you're a quest giver, then you're sending people out to go do stuff and to do things, and you're giving them the role play and that character drive for them to do X, because maybe it's a part of what they built their character for. You know, and I think that yes, a lot of the times it's just the medium that we role play in that denotes what types of quests we can do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know,
well, because like like you said with Atlas, when you got these large map clusters you have to cross to do to get something specific. Maybe there's only one place on the entire board that you can pick up, I don't know, an item of specific rarity or value or whatever, and you need it to accomplish a task or to build a ship or whatever, and you can only get it one spot, and you're either busy or don't have the time to go get it. Guess what? You're gonna hire somebody or task somebody to go do it for them.
Yep. If
you're sending somebody to go, say, 3 map clusters away, that's gonna take a minute. In that amount of time, it's a quest. They could have anything happen to them in that quest. They could get attacked by a sea creature. They could get attacked by another ship. They could get diverted. They could get, hell, anything. You've just basically given them a mini story in their overarching story. I mean, like, good grief, go back and read Odyssey and look at what happens from it's one big story, but it's like all these little quests that take place in this one gigantic quest of Odysseus trying to get home. Golden example of one big story with a lot of little stories embedded into it. That same thing can happen in any role-playing environment, provided it fits the bill. GTA doesn't have that happen as often because it's a smaller environment. It's quicker to get around and things, but it can still happen.
Yep. Again, it's just the medium that we kind of work with, and it's the limit. It's the limitation.
Yeah.
I think that's why all of us are always looking for the next type of game of are we going to be able to role play in space? What does that game look like?
Yeah.
Are they coming out with another game that's going to have this huge map, and what are we going to do with it? For DayZ, I'm not a DayZ role player. I love watching it.
Yeah.
It's not a me thing.
It's
definitely
because
different. Of the game itself.
Yeah.
It's just the game for me. I'm like, I can't get into it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy watching it a whole lot. Atlas, I sunk so much time into. It wasn't even funny. Conan and Ark are different to role play into because hello dinosaurs. Who doesn't want a pet dinosaur? That's just really fun. But same thing, right? Maps. You gotta collect things in order to do that. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of lack in GTA is that survival aspect, which is why people add in the servers, right? Like the health and water and food and the rest of that is to kind of drive other things. Like I need this in order to make this, which then gives me food and I can have this.
Yep.
And Atlas was the same exact way. When you add in that survival aspect, you at least have something additional that people can do, like mechanically, quest wise, or any sorts of thing. I had one person in GTA ask me like, how good of a cook I was, and I was like, I'm really not that good. And they're just like, good, because I need this kind of meat in order to make jerky. And that was just one of those things where you can only cook like one, you only make jerky out of one particular, I don't know, temperature of meat. And that's mechanically how it works. So I can't get any better as a cook because then I can't give them what they want. And so to do that on a character, I'm just kind of like, game wise, I'm like, well, I really want to be like the best cook ever.
Yeah.
But like story wise and like what you're trying to do for someone else, that they gave you a quest, like someone gave me a quest of I need this. I was like, okay, I can try. Sure. So I started cooking it. And I'm like, oh, hey, I can make it. Nice.
Yeah.
And so I was able to give them what they wanted. My character doesn't need it. They don't care. But it was just, it was something fun and different to do.
Which is nice because it breaks up the quote unquote monotony of GTRP. Because like Zach just said, DayZ was always good for sending people out for supply runs or surveilling people and info gathering, because DayZ is such it's post-apocalyptic. It's a zombie environment, essentially.
Yeah.
So your roleplay experience is surrounded around the concept of don't die. It's not about who can get the most money. And the fact one thing that I always liked about DayZ roleplay, and even though I did play it for a few months on Red Zone and I did enjoy it, and it does now have its downfalls, I don't do it anymore. One of the key things I enjoyed about it is DayZ doesn't have currency. What's one of the biggest fallbacks to GTA roleplay? Money.
It's currency.
Is who has the most money, who can flash the most cash, who has the most guns, who has the most cars. It's always about asset collection. Everybody always boils it down to asset collection. DayZ, the most assets you're going to collect is how many guns you can get your hands on, and guaranteed you're not going to keep them very long.
Yep. Guns, ammo, water, food. I mean, you're talking like the necessities.
It's consumable. You're going to go through
it.
That's the thing, is it's unlike where you can stockpile guns on a GTA server and stick them in a warehouse somewhere until a war kicks off. DayZ, you don't have that luxury. You're fighting zombies. You're trying not to die. You've got looters that are coming to try and steal your stuff. You're gonna go through your ammo. You're gonna go through your water. And one of the things that I liked about Red Zone when I was on it is they adjusted the loot tables based on the community. So if they noticed that everybody's stockpiling a bunch of food, well, hey, guess what? Or no, everyone always has enough
batteries.
Food. Yeah, batteries and food. Like, oh, well, we've noticed that everyone in the server has an ample supply of food. Well, guess what? canned goods are now going to be 4 times as harder to find. You're going to have to start learning how to grow your own food. You're going to have to start learning how to harvest. You're going to have to, best guess what? Start raiding people for food. Like, not ammo and guns. Your main worry now is, do you have food to survive? Like, I like that was a thing because it kept changing. It was like a mini season inside of a main season. Instead of trying to do a server wipe, you just shifted the quote meta of what now needs to be gathered without allowing it to be easily attainable. And I thought that was a very unique thing that DayZ as a genre allows, as opposed to other games that don't really have that inside of them. I think Atlas maybe
And
would
on
have
the
that.
fly.
Oh, and on the
fly.
Yeah. It was literally like you woke up to an announcement and you're like, oh, this is now a thing. You're like, fuck. Like this.
You could definitely adjust some things in Atlas that way, and kind of like you can with Arc. Like you can adjust drop rates and that sort of stuff. It is pretty flexible because it's done by Wildcard, right? So it's the same. Conan, Arc, and Atlas kind of have that same type of framework that you can make those adjustments. I think DayZ can do it a little bit more based on the type of thing. Whereas, Atlas and the rest of it comes down more to, how fast can you gather something? What do those gather rates look like and the rest of it? But ultimately, still the same type of thing. It can still impact it. You can also adjust things of, when you take a ship out and you're doing the crates and stuff, right? Or the sunken ships.
Yeah.
The type of, loot variety that you can get can be adjusted.
Sure.
And what's in them can be adjusted. So I think it's pretty cool, right? Because you can modify the experience. GTA is the same.
Yeah,
it's a grind. It's a grind to do stuff, and whether it's cop, crime, civ, it's a grind to get the stuff, right? Your pixel money.
Yep.
to get to where you. I mean, that's what it is.
It is
right?
what it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
To get to where your character can do X, but your goal around your character should never be about money.
Yep.
I don't care. It's one of the things I like about Twitch RP. You start off with an apartment.
Yeah.
You get an apartment and a car.
Yep.
And you get $5,000 in cash.
Yep. Which means at that point, go storytell. Like you're not. Yeah. You don't need to worry about. I got to spend the first 2 weeks trying to get a car. And I got a place to live. Like.
Yep. You already got it.
Yep.
I mean, it's literally what you start with, and you don't really have to worry about it. So you can go kind of figure out the city and figure out what you want to do.
Yep. And
it's one of the things that I liked the most about it. I just thought it was really great. When they decided to do that, I was like, this is like the best thing ever. Because I have out of all the characters I have, my cop's the only one that really has money.
Well, sure, that's usually how it ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, my other ones, like my character Vicky, who works at the VU and is a part of like a little gang. She was like, please don't ever think this character's gonna make a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
As long as she has got enough money for like food and water, I'm good. Like that's all I really care about. Maybe a gun, or a knife or a bat, whatever.
Sure.
But I'm like, that's it. I'm here to tell a story. I don't care about the other crap.
And I think that's actually something that I think this is one of the reasons GTRP has not died out, because when you really look at it objectively from a wide scope, right? You have GTRP, you got DayZ RP, you got Atlas RP, you got Red Dead RP, you got all these different game genres for roleplay. And GTA is its own beast because it's probably the only one that doesn't have the other elements like survival or community or a very large map. The other games are known for larger environments with more players sometimes, and a survival aspect built in, a creative or constructive aspect built in where you can build things. Then you have GTA, you can't build things. It's a very small map. You don't worry about building these factions where you control whole territories per se. You have to deal with like it's a very unique thing, but it hasn't died out. And I think the reason is because the focus of GTRP is story. The focus is not don't die. The focus is not build a base. The focus is not build a faction or a trade or anything. The focus is story. And I think when people focus on that and remember that and include others in their story, like, that's the topic of giving roleplay, I think that's when it is amazing. Because, like, I know personally, except for one moment on DayZ RP, and I still have the highlight, I think my personal experience as across all the RP that I've tried, GTA is the only one that's made me feel things in a story. I know that I've seen people do it in other games, and it's not exclusive to that. In my experience, GTA is the only one where I've gone like, oh, that gave me goosebumps, whether in a good way or a bad way. DayZ, there was one exception in DayZ where I had one instance, and it was insane, and I love that moment, and I'll always have it forever. But I think for me, personally, that's why GTRP has kept my attention for as long as it has, despite trying to get away from it a few times, is because for some reason, the stories that I've had out of GTA have just been more grabbing. Personally, I don't know about you two.
I think I've told some decent stories on GTA.
Mm-hmm. I would think so. I mean, I would say so from my experience watching you.
Appreciates. Appreciates. A bit. I think the other game that I've been able to tell decent stories on was Atlas.
Sure.
I had a really good time with Atlas, and I had a really fun. I had a good character who had a decent heart, and when it came down to it, I permaned the character during a battle.
Ooh.
And it was after I don't know how many, because he was the person that built the ships. And I remember where it was, we're doing this battle, and we're getting hammered by just I don't know, cannons and all sorts of crap that was coming down. And his health had gotten really, really low, and I had tried to get under, right, to heal him up and everything else like that, and I ended up coming back out, and I got hammered again. It was really low, and then I got hammered right after it, and he was down.
Ooh.
And I just sat there and I thought about it, to have like this moment where the character goes down in battle after doing so much for the entire crew, in the entire like pirate faction for that one. It was so good. Yeah, I did kill him on your birthday. Sorry, Borg.
Borg's like, you bastard.
Yeah, and what's really funny, right? Because I was doing it on stream, and I actually had a face cam on for Atlas for like the longest time. But it's like everyone could see it, and they clipped it, and I still have the clip somewhere where it was like I was legit. You could see the pondering of perma.
You could see the gears. Oh,
you could see it, and I was just like,
and all chat just went,
They're like, no, and because they really liked the character. They really liked Choke, and I ended up perming that character, and I think that as long as you feel like it's a good ending for your character and it's gonna drive some other story forward, it was a good perma. And for me, it was a fantastic perma. It was a 100% fantastic perma, and it drove things forward with those characters. Katie Rue will tell you that it's because I didn't want to build the damn wall, which is partially true. I didn't want to build the damn wall.
Loophole.
I was fucking tired of building the damn wall. But I really did have a good time. Now I did make another character, and it ended up going back to that same group. It took me about 2 weeks to do that from an in-character perspective.
Sure.
I knew where they were.
Yeah.
I could have easily like hopped on a raft and just beelined it to it, but I ended up spawning on an island, and then working my way around to go to X place, and then hung out there. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I had some really good story moments inside of Atlas.
That's cool.
That's actually birthplace of Tyler, by the way. Was
really?
Atlas.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. The character was originally meant for Atlas, and was Sam. The character's name was Sam. And it was specifically to be like one of the kitchen help dudes for Ven's Admiral character.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Admiral Bane. I love that character so much.
It was legitimately just for that character, and that's how Tyler was born. And then when I came back, I started playing Tyler.
Gotcha.
And I made him that character, same voice and everything. It was incredible. That was really fun. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Like everyone has their I know that some people like Tease loves role playing in Conan. She's mentioned this before. Like I couldn't do it. I've seen it. I've seen gameplay. I couldn't role play in that environment. It would just feel too video gamey to me to do that. And that was been my struggle with Atlas and Arc, was it felt too video gamey. I remember I was in when Darkside Atlas RP. I don't remember if it was right when it first started or whatever, but I was in oh, good grief. Why am I blanking on his name? Walrus.
Fist?
Fist, thank you. Fist. I was in Fist's crew. With that whole thing. And it was kind of at the beginning of either a season or when it first started. And it felt very, like, we were literally dying every 3 seconds because of cold. And so you'd spawn on the ship and run to this little heat hut, and then you die, and you just kept doing it over and over. And for me, I was like, this doesn't feel roleplay anymore. This just feels like a game with funny voices. So for me, it kind of, I struggled with the immersion. I struggled with the connection to it. But
sure.
And that was just me. That's just because of the way I view roleplay, the way I enjoy roleplay and everything, which is why, like, Red Dead, I love Red Dead as a genre. I love it as a genre. Oh my gosh, I have all these amazing stories I wanted to tell in Red Dead, but unfortunately the game is just not quite there yet. Yeah. When you get spoiled with what you can pull off in GTA, what you can pull off in Atlas, what you can even pull off in DayZ, and you go to a brand new game like Red Dead where they're like, oh cool, we got RP servers now, but they are so rudimentary and basic, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a little bit weird. This is a little bit clunky. And it when you've been spoiled for so long, it makes it kind of hard to get back to your roots.
Yeah, and I think it goes mechanic wise, right? We're spoiled by mechanics
Yep.
in our role play.
Yep.
And realistically, if you give me slash me's and a scene, I can role play out anything.
Oh,
it's
so
the
true.
only two mechanics I really, really need. Emotes are great.
Yep.
I love emotes. Lots of different clothes, obviously very fun,
Sure.
right? To kind
There's
of
all the
customize your
niceties you
character.
can sprinkle on top of it when you boil it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but slash me's and a scene is what I need.
Point. I like having the ability to do at least point. If you can't have any other emotes, at least being able to point at something, be like over there or that guy. I think when you boil it down to its basics, I think those three things for me, I would be in the same boat. If I can do those three things, I think I can get by. Because you can do forward slash me scratch his chin.
Yeah,
you can do because it's like, I mean, you can do forward slash me points at so and so, but being able to just do it quietly without a scene, without saying anything, I think it's amazing. Because I remember when I was first into the Dark Side Atlas stuff, I couldn't point and I couldn't do a forward slash me, and I'm like, I don't know how to role play here. Like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
All that hard work on that guy.
Yeah, it ended up getting added.
Yeah, it did,
which was nice.
Yeah. So this was
but
a
it was
while
just
ago.
that, yeah, we just didn't know.
Yep. Wow, I like how we've completely gone into Atlas and Daisy RP. Like completely.
I mean, because it's all role play.
It's all role play.
It's all right. It's all quest giving. It's all trying to figure things out, and it's because it's the medium. It's the medium that we play in.
Well,
and although the majority of us play in GTA, we still do everything else too.
Well, and at the end of the day, tabletop. You don't even play in a game. You play in your head. You play in your imagination. You play. I mean, sometimes nowadays we actually have tabletop simulators, and we've got Roll20, and we've got Foundry, and we have all these technological advancements that allow us to, essentially on the fly, more or less, create a new imaginative world to role play in. But essentially, you're still role playing in the theater of your mind. And at the end of the day, it's all storytelling. It's all, whether you're a tabletop gamer and you're basically the hero of the story, and you're not always going to win, but have a better chance of seeking a win, or you're in GTA RP where it's a complete 50-50 shot. At the end of the day, we're just a bunch of nerds that like to tell stories. And that's, if you keep that main point, I always say is, if you keep the main point of it's a story, everybody's involved, everyone has fun, and I'll tell you right now, I would rather have a moment of losing in a story and getting goosebumps of like, oh my gosh, that was so intense, or that was so incredible, or whatever, than, oh, look, I just made $100,000 and I can go buy a fancy sports car. Like, okay, cool. I have a fake car. Like, woohoo! Like, give me the story. Give me the goosebumps from a good story.
The Tyrell Woods Tempesta. I don't know what.
Okay.
It's any better than that, man.
Okay, I'll tell you right now, having played Diego with Tyrell for a while, I see why he likes the Tempesta. Like, I hated chasing that thing, but then I played Diego and I'm like, oh, I see now. I see now. This is fun. I don't know. There's sides to that. I get the whole car thing sometimes, but at the same time, I struggle when it doesn't. That's a whole other tangent, but I struggle when a character that wouldn't necessarily have that car has it just because they're like, oh, it's a video game and I want the car. Like, I struggle with that, but that's me.
Yeah, I look at it, and sometimes when you kind of have that they gotta have that $900,000 car. I'm looking at it from I don't care if I ever play Tyler again. He needs to have the Chimera. He needs to have the bike. The bike track.
3-wheel. Oh my gosh, I could see that.
He needs to have the bike track. That's his thing. He literally scammed it off of people. It was great. That was for like I cannot remember how much it was, but it was back. It was on FamRate, and it was back on 68 at that car lot. And between like, I can't remember who all was involved with that one, but it was like myself. It was Jeff because it was with the Phoenix crew. So it was Jeff and a few other people, and we ended up like hitting it for like a freaking song. And he scammed one brother off of the other brother, and that was it. He walked away with it, and I think he got it for like 10 grand or less. It was just incredible.
Dude,
and obviously,
oh my gosh,
the role players knew what was happening.
Sure, of course they did.
But Tyler was just the fast talking little shit that was trying to get away with. He just wanted something for free. 8K might have been 8. Yeah, the Irvines.
Dude, those moments where you can talk, like, and that's one of those things where using your words as a role player, as opposed to just using a menu or using a weapon or using a car. Being able to work your way verbally through a role play scenario, even if it ends up in a loss, is sometimes some of the most. It usually is the greatest role play because you're actually role playing. You're not just doing things.
Oh, they took a loss on that one. That's for sure. They took a huge loss.
Well,
for
aren't those
that
like
one.
a $30,000 bike?
I
think
plus.
it's like wicked expensive. If we're talking about fam, it's stupid expensive for what it is.
Yeah. It was definitely a very, very pricey thing. But yeah, 8K. I remember that now.
That is amazing.
Yeah, 8K is what he got away with it.
Jeez.
But you know, at the same time, right? If you take a look at the fact that I was playing a cop at the same time, right? And you add that in, who do you think I went to go buy cars from? I went to go buy cars from Irvine.
Oh, of course.
And you didn't haggle, right? Because they won on they lost on Tyler, but they won on Bishop.
Sure.
And I mean, that was just kind of how it went. So I'm hoping it kind of balanced out.
Well, because as a cop,
RP karma-wise.
Well, and as a cop, we have all the money that we need to go buy pretty much whatever car we want with a few hours on a shift. So why go to the M menu and buy one and give money to the ether when you can go to a player and spread the money around? And because the money is going to them, it's going to a character. That character then has the option to take that money and either buy more cars to sell to more players, which can give a new player a chance to get a good car, or they can use it to they may be a criminal and spreading it around other criminal enterprises. And it's an economy. If it's a living, breathing economy where the money is constantly spreading around, guess what? You're now giving roleplay through the act of transferring money. That's where currency can be a really good tool in roleplay, as opposed to just look at all the dollars I have in my fictitious pixel account. Like, here's
the fun one, and here's the really, really fun one. Katie was playing a run Twitch RP. She was playing Chloe Leaves, and Chloe had a business for car selling. So that was one of the things that she did. Well, instead of having like a regular car lot, she would do pop-up lots.
Okay. Oh, that's
interesting. And yeah, right. So Del Perro Pier, right hand side, big parking lot area, and that's where the garage was. She would put out a tweet for help, for help for X number of dollars. Want a job, need a job, come down here. She had cars that ranged from like a couple thousand to just like hundreds of thousands of dollars. She just had it, but she would start sending out tweets to get people to come to her and start helping her pull out cars, helping her do flyers, putting them around town and the rest of it. She just ended up quest giving all these things out within the span of like minutes, and people were fluctuating there all the time. If you were a new role player, because this was before the wipe, you could get a car there for cheap. She would literally almost give you the car for just a couple of $1,000s, even if she was down, because she was so up on the character.
That's always great when you've got characters that are willing to do that and spread assets around at a quote loss, just simply to help either new players or give opportunities. And I think that's something that's not done very often, but I like when people do that and they do the yes and, or they do the no but, where yes, you can have this car, but and you are going to, this is going to come with a caveat. You now work for me, or you need to bring these things to me, or no, you can't have the car, but if you go do these tasks for me, I'll give you the car for free rather than selling it to you.
Yep, and that's what she did too. She went out and said, go out and do this. Go put up these flyers and then send me pictures, right? So on your phone, send me a picture of you putting up flyers in different locations, and I'll give you money for this. And then if you want to buy a car, I'll give it to you at a discount. Which she would, she would.
Sure.
It was great.
You're like a Coke addicted casino owner. Yes, Riggsy, like a Coke addicted casino owner.
What is this, Goodfellas? Casino? What?
I don't know. So we've gone like all over the map, and I love this. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Something that I forgot I kind of wanted to get to kind of touch on with giving roleplay. What Star 6, what was that?
No, I was just saying hi to a dog that came to my room. That's fine.
Gotcha. Something that I kind of wanted to talk about, that actually this was a part of the original start for this idea for the episode. We haven't touched at all, but some things that can be really good for giving roleplay, and kind of shifting gears a little bit, is scenes, evidence tickets, and security cameras. So different servers
bringing this up, huh?
Well, every server is different. Every server has different tools that they allow to their role players, have different mechanics in or out of server. So use these sort of things to give role play. I think these are things that new role players. So, for example, if you come from a server that's never had a scene before, right? Like when scenes first started to come on the scene, no pun intended, as a mechanic to use in a role play environment, people didn't know what they were. They didn't know how to use them, and you'd have some servers with just scenes everywhere. and you're like, what? Okay, this is just too much. I remember on Red Dead, we had new players come in from different environments who'd never used that mechanic before, and you had scenes everywhere, and they were literally crashing games. And so you had, people who don't know how to use a mechanic, but they can be used so wonderfully for role play or evidence tickets. People don't fully understand, okay, how is this system used, or how do we provide role play to the cops without either giving ourselves away entirely or just giving them useless information. Or like how to, should we use body cams or security cameras, things like that. More video-based evidence that we can use for role play. What are some things that, because I mean, as LEOs and criminal players, we've probably been on both sides of these things in different environments and different servers. What are some things that you guys can think of in the kind of the scope of mechanical elements to help give role play that you have liked or not liked, things that you guys think are helpful to new players? Like think of this essentially as a section of this conversation around helping people who aren't familiar with this sort of role play or aren't familiar with giving role play in this way, and things and tips and tricks you can provide to those people. What are some things that you guys can think of?
Go ahead, Sixy.
I've never played like a criminal that was like, okay, you don't need to laugh, woman.
Wait, who's laughing?
My mom.
Oh.
Anyway.
It's a probably awkward conversation to walk by as the mom, like, wait, you've never done what? Like,
fine. So I've never done it. Like, Emma was obviously a bad criminal, right? So I only know what I'd like to see from a cop perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to make it super easy that I catch you, right? Because that's not fun for me either.
Yeah.
Just something. Leave something that gives you that trail that can lead back to you eventually, but not right away. Like, it's just
breadcrumbs.
You're breadcrumbs. You're not going to be a perfect criminal. You need to remember that the gangbanger you're playing probably wouldn't care so much that this entire scene's clean or whatever, or
have the time to clean it up.
Or if this was like a rash decision where like shooting just happened, you wouldn't have the perfect way to never get caught in the back of your mind. Sure. You just need to let it happen. And to be fair, like sometimes you just don't know, because I sometimes just don't know how that would look. And that's why I do like the mechanics on the server of bullet casings or blood or scenes that you can leave that can track you. Where you kind of don't have especially the bullets and the blood, you don't really have an option to not leave that there. But for especially serial killers, they leave something. They leave a token that shows that this is the same crime that's similar to a different crime, right? Just gotta be mindful. That's just have to use the brain when you're doing the crime.
Use the brain. I don't know if I can do that.
Use the brain. I don't use the brain often enough, as you can tell by my choice of words. But it just comes down to thinking, how could I get caught?
Yeah.
And how can I make sure that breadcrumbs are left for people that are interested or see it? I can get caught.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and having played a criminal and a cop, it's a balancing act, because if you play a cop and then you play a criminal, typically in your mind when you're playing, you're like, I want to give them as much information as possible if I'm doing something, because I want them to have something to role play with. The flip side of that is, well, you're also playing a criminal. You don't want to just hand yourself over on a silver platter, because that's going to be unfun for you and unfair to yourself. But it's also, as a cop, it's kind of demoralizing to like, oh, cool, I have this opportunity for this great role play, and then it's like, boom, instant win. It's like, or instant arrest, or however you would like to word it. And it's kind of like, that didn't feel great. That felt kind of bleh. Like, I mean, this could have been a cool investigation. There could have been back and forth banter. And it's like, it's like you have somebody who's done this crime, leave you a little bit of scenes, like, oh, cool, this would be a good investigation, and then it'd be like them just turning themselves in like an hour. Like, why? Like, right. This could have been a week's or a month's worth of role play, and this lasted 30 minutes. It's being very careful on pacing.
and pacing also depends on the server too, right?
Yes, it does.
Like for Twitch RP, the pacing's a little bit faster because the statute of limitations is a month, unless it's murder, right?
Sure.
Or court, or it's a court crime. That's when it's longer than the month. But whereas fam, every crime you have a year to charge someone.
Yeah.
Like a year and a day.
Yeah, year and a day. Yeah.
I know that because Hayes told Emma that every fucking time.
Oh, for me it's North. North says it all the time. Year and a day. Year and a day. Year and a day. Yep.
But like Zach says, it's a good idea to put evidence collection to be time sensitive. You wouldn't get everything from the lab right away.
Yeah,
right.
No.
Like blood match, that takes time.
Yep.
And
well, in general, evidence that goes to an evidence lab takes time. Whether it's a blood match, whether it's a drug test kit, whether it's, I mean, hell, sometimes even GSR stuff. It depends on how backed up a lab would be. So you can pace yourselves literally on that alone. And that was actually.
Even as simple as like finding like a feather on like a raven feathers, goddammit.
Oh boy, I remember those.
As finding a feather on scene, or finding something that your character wouldn't know about, like a plant. If a plant was left on scene, Sid doesn't know everything about every fucking plant. She's gonna have to take that to the lab and let the lab tell her what kind of plant that is. You know?
Yeah.
Even though the scene says this is sunflower, like whatever.
That's kind of like where, in my opinion, you can have a balance between something like an evidence ticket or a DM and using a scene where you can go, oh, like a scene says a strange plant that catches your eye is left here. But that way you don't have the unconscious or the OOC meta of, oh, I now know what this plant is because they told me. But it's a strange plant. Okay, now I can go through the RP of handing this into the lab and waiting for a result on it, and then the player can then come back to you through a DM or an evidence ticket if your server has one or whatever, and be like, oh, that plant you found, if you ran it through the lab or you had or a botanist look at it or whatever, this is the result you'd find.
Bro, if anytime I find like something like that I don't know what it is, I literally take a picture and send it to as many characters as I know that are awake to be like, hey, do you know what this is?
There you go.
Just to open up that RP and be like, hey.
Oh my gosh, you're
that
quest
can be
giving.
my lab. I'm quest giving. I'm just like, hey, do you know what this is?
Yeah.
I sent an ostrich feather that I had taken a picture of. I'm like, hey, do you know what this is? It's like big feather. I'm guessing a big bird, but I don't really know.
That's perfect, though. That's a way to involve more players outside of that. And what's really cool is one of the things I like about roleplay, and this isn't exclusive to any game or genre or server, is the mystery investigation style roleplay. Whether it's LEO to a criminal, or criminal to criminal, or a civ that's discovering the criminal world, that puzzle game of putting things together and putting information together and going, oh my gosh, this guy said this, it means he's involved with that, is one of my favorite elements of roleplay, is putting all those pieces together and coming up with a finished story or a finished scene at the end of it. I love that. So involving more players in that beyond just one person is, like, to me, very important. I actually had a character I was playing for a bit on FAM that did that, or was trying to do that, and I was trying to involve more than just the cops in a story. I was trying to involve civilians as well, and I think that's important to involve more people in just, one specific targeted group and things, but it has its moments. It has its place. Run, what about you? What's your take on some of this stuff involving ticket systems, scene usage, security camera streams, stuff like that?
So, I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to using like video or getting stuff that you've done and then editing it for like CCTV footage. And I've seen that done a lot. I've seen it done a lot, and it can be some really, really cool stuff. I'm actually very happy that Twitch RP doesn't have body cam footage, and I don't have to worry about that shit.
Yes, Sixy was telling me about that, actually.
Yeah, no body cam footage, no OAS reports. I'm so happy about that. It's not funny. So you don't really. Oh, dude, the amount of OAS reports we would have to do would be hysterical.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. So so you don't have to use it. You don't use it, right? You don't have body cam footage. You don't have dash cam footage. What you have is what you got. You got the role play.
Yeah.
For like evidence and that sort of stuff, it's I probably hit or miss when we did the evidence system for FAM, right? Some people use it, some people didn't use it, some people use it a lot, and somebody didn't.
Yeah.
It's a flip of a coin.
Yeah.
The scenes, however, got used a lot of good use for that, right? Whether it was like you know, a boot print or a fingerprint, which would come back to this person. You know, to 60's point, right? Like a flower, but you know, this is the type that it is, and you role play it out. And,
Yeah.
you know, having Bishop, who did all the, you know, forensics,
All the
and stuff
crime
like
lab
that,
stuff. Yeah, I remember that.
so much fun.
Yeah.
To be able to then, you know, go role play that out and have it like just come back on these reports, or I got to go to the lab and see if that stuff came in, or you know, I send it. You know, I can't do this. I got to send it off to somebody else because it's above me. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to role play that out, and you know, role play it like coming back later. Those are always fun. People that want to kind of give that additional role play is great. It's never needed.
No.
It's great if you want to keep that long story going. You know, look at Sarah, right? Sarah Apocalypse.
Yeah. Yep.
With Banshee.
Oh yeah. Well, she's
And
doing it now
the
with
amount
Piper
of-
too.
Yeah. So the amount of scenes that get left on that character, for the different like people that she was killing, or whether they were NPCs or not, the boot prints were there, right? She would take pictures and post them on Twitter, and obviously we knew it was her. We just couldn't catch her. We were always so far behind.
Sure.
But the scenes that were left at those locations were just insane. They were so insane. And it was good, right? So from a cop perspective, having things like scenes to be able to leave additional information, like don't give me the full fingerprint.
Yeah.
Give me a partial. And then at your next one, tell me that partial matched the partial of the other one. And then it can at least be like, okay, it's at least the same one. Then maybe when we get like the full fingerprint, then we can like match up the two partials to that one. You know what I mean?
Now
Like
you've
drag
got
it out.
now you got the missing puzzle piece.
Yeah, but I don't know who it is because maybe their name isn't inside the database yet. We don't have their fingerprint.
Yep.
So we know that it matches. We have the full thing. We just don't have it. You know what I mean? It's that, that build.
Well, and a lot of people, sometimes people don't realize that, like, some people just who don't understand the evidence systems in the United States or how that whole thing works. If you haven't been like actually given a fingerprint, whether because you haven't been arrested, you haven't applied for a passport or whatever, your fingerprint's not on record. It's not like they have everybody's fingerprints that's just magically on record. Like there has to be a reason for it to be in the system. So
shocking, right?
I know, right? So
shocking.
It's like, yeah. So it's like if you've got a character that has just now their story has developed into a criminal element where they now have gone out killing people, or you're now leaving these scenes, you can leave every fingerprint in the world. If you're not in the system, they can have a full fingerprint and have no idea who you are unless they can run it through something. So you can use that. You can use that to your advantage and go, okay, you have my full fingerprint. You have all these things about me, but you have no idea who I am because I've never been arrested before, or I've not been in your system, or this, that, or whatever. And you can use that to prolong a story even more.
Yeah. The other cool part with like Discord and evidence tickets or DMs, right, is the ability to do the where you can hide it, the spoiler, right? The little two vertical lines on either side of text.
Oh yeah.
Makes it into a spoiler.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you have that right, you can have it to where it's just like it's an and/or. Like, which one do you pick?
Yeah.
If your character did this, you can do this.
Yep.
Actually, this reminded me of something. One thing I really like about a lot of Sierra killers on Twitch RP is they leave a little scene or a note that says, when you approach, roll a d1d20. Based on that, like if you get 1 through 5, you don't see anything. If you get a 5 through 10, you see partially a footprint. If you see like 15 through 20, you have a full footprint. You know what kind of shoot it is. Like it's based on the roll, which kind of is interesting for me too. Yeah.
And you still have that stuff where it's like, there was a syringe left at Mission Row. I don't know why, but there was one left there, right? And even like, so Ravage's character, my character, was like, yeah, that's above my pay grade. I don't touch that. That's medical crap. I was like,
Sheriff.
Yeah, let's see if someone can go ahead and call 911 and get that taken care of, and someone else can come. Right, and then that drew in like the EMS and the medical role play. To kind of find out like what that is and take that part over. We're just kind of like, I don't know what, I'm not touching that. That's new. Allie's not a forensics person. That's still Bishop. So I'm like, nope, had to send it up to lab. Sorry. But it's that kind of fun, right? So, scenes are great. Evidence tickets or getting additional things in DMs is great. Having that partner within the role play is just extends it. It extends the life of their story and your story to kind of get some additional details or information that's out there. At the same time, right, when they're trying to give you additional things for their character and their story, that you're now a part of, make sure that you give stuff back. And help them out with the pacing. If it seems like it's going too fast, slow it down a little bit. Just say the lab hasn't come back with it yet.
Yeah.
Or whatever that is, because now you all are pacing this story together. At least that part of that scene to kind of complete it out and round it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, because when I'm playing the criminal, right, I'm in charge of giving over some additional details. If you make the right decisions, then you'll get some additional info.
Yeah.
If you walk more than 20 feet away from the door, you'd probably see a scene where there's like a pile of cigarette butts and a size 12 boot print on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that would match this location. And that's the additional things, right? But until you're right there, you're not going to see it.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I'm as responsible for putting down scenes as I am for reading them.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is with scenes, like you said before, in a couple different ways and fashions, is sometimes it's not being so on the nose with it. If you're leaving a size 12 boot print or a partial print, that is information that is still, it's something, right? Like I've had people either leave scenes for me or open evidence tickets with me or send me DMs, and they either completely go, oh, this is what you'd see, and it's like, well, you just solved it for me. Now I just got to put out a warrant and wait till I catch you, and that's kind of meh. Or it's they give me something, it's like, okay, I appreciate the effort, but there's nothing I can do with this. Like there is literally like no roleplay that can come from what you've given me beyond just, cool, I already kind of knew this information from chasing you or whatever. It's like I respect the effort, I respect the concept of trying to give me something, but there's a balance that has to be achieved between giving enough to roleplay with, give me something tangible, but don't give me everything. And that goes beyond just LEO. That can be criminals, that can be civilians, that can be anybody. Don't just give everybody everything on a silver platter, but don't give them something that they can't do anything with. Give them something with meat to it, something that has some hooks in it.
Actionable.
Yeah,
it's gotta be actionable.
Yeah, like giving me, for example, giving me a security footage image of, oh hey, I robbed this store, or the security camera footage from this location would show this, and it's a screenshot, right? And it shows the back of somebody in a costume that, Los Santos Special number 5, with no information off. It's like, cool, you've given me evidence, but this evidence is useless. I see the back of somebody wearing all black and a mask, wearing gloves. They're not touching anything, and they're robbing a store. Like, I already knew they were robbing the store, and I got a glimpse of them leaving or whatever. Cool, but there's nothing here tangible. So
yeah.
It's a balancing act at the end of the day, for sure. I miss people DMing me with evidence and me doing follow-ups when the lab got back. I love that too. I love that. I love role-playing with the lab in general. Like, I like I'll be out on duty or whatever as McNeil, and I'll get a DM. Like, Swerve is a perfect example of this. I'll be out doing stuff, and Swerve and I, because of different time zones, he gets back to me or gets back to the evidence ticket super late. So I'll get a DM at like middle of my shift, if not later, and it's of additional information from something I found like 2 hours earlier. And I RP getting a phone call from the lab, and they're like, oh yeah, the evidence just came back on this one thing. This was the result. Cool, can you send that in an email? Thanks. Boom. It's just, we've just, the story's now 2 hours old technically, or 2 days old or 2 weeks old, but it's still there, and it's something that I can now add to the file or add to the case and just continue rolling with. I love it. Okay, well, I didn't realize this, but we've been going for like 2 hours.
Oh boy.
Yeah, typically 2 hours is when I usually will start to wind it down because I know people have things to do. So usually what I'll do is I'll ask if anybody in chat has anything that they would like to ask me or my guests, regarding the topic, anything that you would like us to quickly go over or elaborate on before we wind down, or if you, Sixy, or you, Run, have anything that you would like to tag on to the conversation before we start winding it down.
I don't have anything. We covered quite a bit.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did. And a multitude of games to go along with it.
Which I'm actually glad about, because we've all role-played in different environments, and roleplay is roleplay at the end of the day, regardless of what game you're on. But it's amazing how different each game can be from another, just simply on the fact that the game is built differently. Like, you're not going to have the identical experience. Yeah, mechanics, environment, characters, even the look of the game. Mods, yeah, for sure.
The mods that we can put on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would you consider? Okay, so Rebel Scum says, what would you consider your most memorable moment in your years of roleplay? Most memorable.
I mean, I only actually I've been role-playing for just 2 years.
Yeah, I'm at about 3 or 4.
Yeah, so I'm like the baby of the group.
Which means you should be able to answer this question quicker.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, because
I'll go with that.
you have less time to like sift through. Like,
Okay, I can do probably the biggest moments for both Emma and
yeah, sure. What like yeah, because you got two main characters that you played pretty heavily in that time period. What's the most memorable for each of those characters?
the most memorable probably for Emma. Ironically, is that point of when the aftermath of when she decided to try to kill Emmett or help try to kill Emmett. Just the story spin-off of like her downfall with Chloe, her trying to like prove to Bishop and Hayes that she wasn't like a bad person, and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, the aftermath has just really shifted the story, and like eventually she went to go hang out with Emmett and Tequila a lot. Like, it was probably like the biggest changing moment of her, even though I don't think she should have done it, of her story. As for Sid, one of the biggest moments of her story was actually with Swerve, and there's probably the investigation with Ivan.
Oh
for how
yeah,
long he
Ivan.
played that out.
Yeah, because I was tied
and-
into some of that as well. That was a good story.
Yeah, I tried to, and like the one part at the beach where he took someone to Stantia Road, and like Emma was like, or not Emma, Sid was just like, well, I need to go, like we need to save this person. But it was in a way where we got literally everyone on duty involved, because obviously you're not gonna send a cop out there to a serial killer by themselves. So I think that whole storyline with Ivan was probably her biggest moment.
That was a good one. And there was a lot of ups and downs to that whole story. Like the time when McNeil and Bauer went to go meet with him and got chewed out by Brooks because we didn't actually have the right approval. But it was a good like in character moment for us to be like, oh, we fucked up.
Well, and that goes back to, I was literally thought Zach was mad at me, and like that's the beauty of roleplay, right? Like, it can be so good where characters are mad at each other, but like at the end of the day, me and Zach went to go hang out in a voice chat afterwards. So
I love when that happens though. Like when you think that the player's mad at you, but you know they're not, but your brain's like, but they are, but you're like, no, they're not, and I know they're not.
They're not.
It can make, and it's great because if you have that level of trust with another player, like obviously you and Zach have that level of trust built, me and Tease have that level of trust built. Run, I'm certain, got some RP partners he's RP'd with in the past. That trust is built to where you can literally screaming at each other in roleplay, where everyone and their mother thinks you're pissed at each other. But in reality, your character's telling a story, and it's so good because that level of trust and connection has been built up.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily see myself having that level of trust with you both.
100%
at this point.
Yeah.
Where it's just yell at each other and afterwards just laugh about it.
Yeah. I think Bishop got mad at McNeil once, and I giggled about it, knowing it was not Run, it was Bishop. I remember what it was. It was when Bishop told McNeil because he said, I think he said "fuck" over the radio or something like that, and I was still a cadet. And Bishop was like, "No, you don't get to do that. Go run." Or I said something out of like offhand, and you're like, "No, you're gonna run laps." And I was like, "Oh, I fucked up." And I knew that it was Bishop getting mad at McNeil, and it was funny. Yeah, it was good.
Oh, Bishop was big on that stuff.
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was great. What about you, Run? What are either one or some of your most memorable moments?
I had some really amazing RP moments on FAM, with a couple of characters. I had quite a few. I think my favorite, my most memorable moment in my years of roleplay though, is being able to move past a character that was just so absolutely fun to play, terrifying to get rid of.
Oh, that's always rough.
But ultimately was like the best decision ever because it led me to Bishop.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So that character, Bishop was like a breath of fresh air for roleplay for me.
Not even just for you, just being able to roleplay around Bishop was a breath of fresh air. Like
he was such a fun character.
Yeah.
And
I love Bishop.
Dude, we all loved Bishop. Like
I love Bishop. He's just fun, and I had a good time with him. And I built in some really big flaws really, really big flaws. His temper, his medical condition are just two. But I think building him was probably my most memorable moment that I've had. These characters, and then from just other stories and other characters, having Choke was probably just one of my favorite characters ever. Going with Blackwake and being a pirate and having those moments of we're friends with each other, but we've got this plan and we've got this thing that we want to do, and that was to have like the most loot and the best ships and the best things, and make sure that we had our own home and that sort of thing. That just was just so amazing and so much fun to build, because you literally had to build it together with everybody that was there, so that teamwork was there.
Yep.
And it's this non-GTA, but it was so good, and it was just so impactful to me as a role player to kind of leave the GTA world and go into something else and do that one.
Well, and it shows that you can put the same effort in and get the same kind of quote unquote reward out of playing something that's not GTA. Because some people are just like, oh, GTA is the only way to role play, when it's not even remotely the truth.
It's really not.
Yeah.
Allie's quickly become one of my favorites, just because of other characteristics I was able to bring in, because of her predecessor. And some of those like key character traits, although they're so muted, and done so differently. But yeah, I have Bishop was probably one of my most
nice
fun ones, in building in the flaws that it took a long time for people to be able to find things out, because I kept it really, really secret. And it was so good when it did come out, with him getting shot in the leg and putting his thumb in it, right? Putting his thumb in the hole to hold it.
Yeah.
While it was just one of those things. It's Bishop. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Kind of stopped bleeding, couldn't feel it anyway.
Do you remember when you were like on top of that like airport truck and you told me to pit it?
Oh my gosh, I love that clip. I love that clip.
I was like, what? You're on top. You're like, go for it.
Do
and,
it.
Like, your hand broke or whatever, and you're just like, this is great.
Yeah, it's fine. It's 100% fine. It was just good, right? It's that good stuff.
Oh,
and
man.
yeah. So I mean, I've had a lot of great, memorable moments, and a lot of them, for the majority of the characters that I played, don't center around me as the main character. By the way, I have a lot more fun with the people that I role play with, where it's meeting other characters where you're laughing so hard out of character, and the tears are rolling down your face because you're just laughing and your cheeks hurt, and you're still trying to talk in character, but you can't.
I love those moments so
because
much.
XYZ happened, or someone else did something, and it just breaks your heart because of how the character sounded. And because you're really projecting your emotions by, just by how you're saying things. And I've had a lot of role players that have impacted me from that perspective, that I have thoroughly enjoyed. And I hate last calls.
Last calls. Oh my gosh, they hurt so bad.
I hate them.
You know what's weird though?
They just rip you to shreds.
Yeah, they do.
They do. And the thing is what's different with Twitch RP is it is on family. When it's about to come. Like everyone gathers.
More or less,
everyone knows when it's coming. On Twitch RP,
you never know.
The last one that you did, you never know, because like when you did it for Malone, I was like in the middle of the hallway of the hotel lobby or the hospital lobby. I had no idea that he was dead, and you just hear last call over the radio. I literally ran back there. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like it was great.
It was so good, because you don't know with such a big group of people that's there, and we're talking like 170 a night, and that's any prime time,
and they're always running around doing stuff like
so I mean, when you have like 15 cops that are on and you're all over the place, and something happened with that character, and these characters, they're all the way over here, and these ones are over here, and someone dies, you don't know where these other people are in the different scenarios that they're in. It's just crazy.
Yep. Ooh, that would be rough.
Yeah, imagine, right? Imagine being in a role play situation, and all of a
Your last
sudden
call.
you hear a last call, and it's your friend, right? And that's
Yeah.
just triggers.
Well,
Right there.
I had something kind of similar. It wasn't a last call, but it was one of those things that popped out of nowhere, and I didn't think it was going to hit me the way that it did. It was so McNeil was on shift with Hooper, who's played by Koopshi, and we responded to a call over Mirror Park, and it was 2 down individuals, and basically what ended up happening was it was 2 masked individuals. I think it ended up being Cheech Gonzalez and Joshua Benson had tried to rob a guy and his grandmother, and the grandmother wasn't having any of it and pulled a knife on him and ended up getting shot and downed. So we are rushing everybody to the hospital and everything, and turns out that the grandmother, Permit, she died. And McNeil had to inform the grandson that his grandmother just passed away. Mind you, this was a month and a half after my own grandmother had passed away while I was living at their house. And so, I had to tell the grandson that the grandmother passed away.
Yeesh.
Okay, I have never broken to that level because nothing's ever hit that close to home in roleplay, and I powered through it, and it made it good for the role. It was really hard to do without a character, but in character, it made it great for the story because McNeil broke down. Like literally, he couldn't deal with because the hospital wouldn't inform him because he wasn't listed as an ICE contact, and McNeil was like, "Fuck this! I don't care if I get fired. I'm telling the kid his grandmother's gone." Because he's sitting out in the lobby waiting for an update, and everyone just kept walking past him without giving him an update, and McNeil was like furious. He was pretty much ready to throw his career on the line to tell this kid this. And it was a really good moment for the character, for him to realize that there's more to life than just the job. There's more to life than just the badge. There is sometimes you have to be human and go maybe over that line. And it was good. It was good role play.
Sure.
But I wouldn't say it's probably my most memorable moment. I'd say some of my most memorable moments. One of them was what I mentioned earlier, was the Paco and Thorn night, where so at this point, Paco had returned to Los Santos after basically leaving with Lauren and disappearing with the help of Dynasty a few months earlier. And we were back, but we were very under the radar. We were living up in the north part of the state and just trying to keep a low profile. And at this point, we had believed for the most part that we were free and clear and that no one was coming after us. So we poked our heads up and went to Tequila La with Tazzy and with Carlos. And I think we ran into all sorts of characters there. And as we left, we got tailed by a black SUV. And we're like, what is this? And they tailed us up into the Vinewood Hills. And they pulled us over near the lake, and we're like, we had no idea what was going on. We're like, why are they? What's going on? And they felony stopped us. They pulled us out and put us all in cuffs, and we're like, what the hell is going on? And even in character, they wouldn't tell us. We had zero clue what was going on until they took us down to VPD and started questioning us, and we realized this was about the murder of Jesus Palafox, aka Chewy, which Lauren and Paco had killed him several months earlier before they dipped town. And so we're like, oh shit. And the problem is that Lauren and Paco had not, for the most part, gotten their story straight on what they were going to tell the cops if they were ever questioned about this. So we were both like, this could be bad. And this went on. This was like a 3-hour interrogation, middle of the night. I had work the next day too, and I didn't care. I literally told my chat, like, I don't care that we have work the next day. This is role play. I'm not walking away from this. We just got to make it quick.
Yeah.
And it ended up going for like 3 hours, middle of the night. It was this super intense interrogation between me and Thorn and what was Laura's old character?
Legs.
Legs was
McCready?
Yeah, McCready and Thorn were the two interrogating us. And they started with me because I DM'd Dat Rage God. I'm like, look, I hate to do this, but I have work in the morning. We got to get this as fast as we can without compromising roleplay. And so they hit me first, had an interrogation. I gave him this story. I was throwing him curveball after curveball of like anything I could pull out of my ass to try and make this story work. And ultimately they let me walk. And then they went back to interrogate Lauren, and then Tazzy shows up and she starts chewing Paco out, blaming him for everything going wrong, and that Lauren's gonna send to prison because of Paco, and he was pissed and ended up basically calling an audible and calling Thorn and saying, I have something for you, come outside, and told him, hey, like, what's going on? Where's my wife? So we're interrogating her. I'm like, I already gave you the story. And she's like, yeah, but we're just gonna question her. And he goes, what if I can prove my story? And he goes, well, how? I have the murder weapon. And everyone just stops and looks at Paco, including I could hear Swirly go, what the fuck he just say? Like I could hear her brain say that. And I ended up taking Thorn up into Sandy. Of course, the server had that moment where it just starts this massive storm, and everybody went, uh-oh, it's the RP storm. Things are gonna get crazy. And it was just this really cool moment that I will always remember, where it should have ended the story and it didn't. But great moment overall, where we went up there, and because I had convinced Thorn that Bottica and Jeffrey Connors are the ones that killed Chewie, and I gave him a story that made sense. And this is after Bottica and Connors were dead, and Paco knew it. He knew they were dead. He found out in character, and Thorn knew they were dead too. So he couldn't prove Paco's story, but he couldn't disprove it either. And the story he sold them made sense based on their personalities. It was like, at the end of it, I was like, I can't believe I just talked my way out of this shit. But one of the other most, and it's actually not even a GTRP moment that I remember and is super memorable, was the Daisy RP moments that I had on two characters. One was O'Malley, which there's a highlight of this where he confronted a guy named Decker who had gone through his supplies and stolen a brand new M4 he had just purchased from the gun dealers and hadn't even used yet. And he stole his night vision goggles, which are pretty much the only way you survive at night in DayZ. Yep. He had stolen both those things and sold them back to the dealers without talking to O'Malley. He'd literally stolen from him, and was saying that it was because he had disrespected their now deceased friend Fox. And so they had this back and forth for like 30 minutes, and O'Malley ends up pulling his gun and shooting Decker in the face. Decker goes down, and O'Malley's frustrated. He's yelling at what he believes is Decker's dead body, and everything. And then all of a sudden you hear Decker go, and he rolls over. He hadn't died. So he's bleeding out on the floor, gasping for breath, like basically essentially RPing that he's like putting his hand up towards O'Malley of like begging him, but you can't hear anything, you just hear gurgling. And O'Malley's like, I'm not a monster. I'm not going to let you sit here and suffer, and puts two more in his head. 30 seconds later, there's basically a knock at the front gate, and it's Hazard's character, I forget his name, who's just shown up to deliver some goods to O'Malley. And O'Malley opens the gate, and Decker's dead body is sitting behind him. And Hazard's character looks at the body, looks at O'Malley, and goes, you good? It's like, yeah, I just had to take out some trash. You can set that stuff over there. I'll be right with you. And Hazard's character walks in, looks at the body, puts the stuff down, and goes, I'm gonna leave, and turns around and walks away. And I'm like, all right, see you later. Closes the gate, and I get the shovel out and start burying him. Like, it was, yeah, Mav. That's it. It wasn't Mav. This wasn't GTRP.
No,
this was
this is Daisy.
This was Daisy. I can't remember the character's name. But yeah, it was that moment. But then there was another character, and you mentioned Choke. I don't ever watch you play Choke, but the name reminds me of a character I played named Shrugs. I wanted to come up with a super unique character.
Oh, what a cool name.
Yeah, well, the idea was the character didn't talk. I did everything through emotes. And originally there was a reason behind it, and I ended up shifting the reason because it ended up working out. But basically, the reason he got the name, I didn't name the character on purpose. And the name came from a roleplay scenario where I ran another character, and he kept asking questions, so he would just shrug the whole time. So he just started calling him Shrugs. And so his nickname became Shrugs, and then that name, because my character didn't talk, was passed on by other players. The name started to spread through this little group of role players that, oh, this is Shrugs because he doesn't know how to talk, he just shrugs. And the story ended up coming out in character that the reason he didn't talk is because he didn't know how to talk, because he was actually basically, so because this is a zombie environment, he was a character that had been infected with the zombie virus and it had started to eat away at him, but he never fully turned. So he's got scars all over his body from rotting flesh, but he's still human. He can still think and act on his own. He can't really talk, and he has the compulsion to eat flesh, but he doesn't, because he has like this moral compass that tells him it's wrong. And so there was this whole story that was developing with these characters of people learning about his backstory without me ever saying a damn word. Like, people learned who he was and what happened to him without me ever saying a word. And it was just like, people were watching this character going, dude, this is insane. And it was one of the few moments of roleplay where I was like, I can't believe I'm actually able to play this character in story and have it play out. And it was like one of the moments I happened to run into this character who was role-playing that he was investigating how the virus got out and what happened. Yeah. And I ran into him, of all people, and we had this whole big story moment blow up. We ran into somebody who was one of the scientists, who was RPing as one of the scientists that helped the disease get out by accident, and we were the two characters that ran into him. And it led into this incredible scene where the guy ends up killing the scientist as basically punishment for his crimes, and Shrug tries to go eat him, and the guy stops him. Like, it was just, it was insane. So those are probably my most memorable moments, but it was...
Shrug was gonna go eat him.
He was. Like, he walks up to him, and he's got a kitchen knife in his hand, and he's looking at the body, and basically I was RPing that, like, through /me's, that he wasn't in control of his own motor functions. He was just being drawn to this body to start eating him, and the guy basically pulled him off of him and said, no, go inside. I'm going to take care of this. You don't eat people. And it was just, it was so good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But anyways.
I love the name Shrugs.
It was awesome. It was great because that wasn't his name. I actually had other ideas for the name, but it came out through roleplay because I just kept doing emotes, and Shrug was the easiest one to do in DayZ. And it just shows, I don't know. Like, he doesn't know. And so he's like, all right, I'm just going to start calling you Shrugs. And I was like, I love it. That's great. And it stuck. And I ran with it for a couple of weeks. Yeah, it was so good.
think that was the other thing about DayZ roleplay is it was really fast.
It was. Sometimes it would slow way down because the map was so big, but it'll speed up like that. I mean, it'll go from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff for sure. Any more last minute questions from chat? Because that was a good one, Rebel. Good question. I always like answering those because I like reflecting on cool stories that have happened in roleplay, even if it's not GTA specific. And we'll give it a few minutes to see if anyone in chat has anything, and if not, we'll start winding it down. Cricket. I'm giving people time to type if they have anything, because it's not as quick as just, oh, I have something. Is there any games you would like to see developed into an RP game? Ooh.
Sims.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Second Life much? Jeez, no thank you. I'm trying to think. I know I've said this before, but I've had this question before and I've had an answer.
Huh.
You know, it would be similar to DayZ, but Last of Us could be an interesting.
Ooh,
The world is what would make that really pretty, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
If you take out the zombies, because you gotta take out the zombies.
Yeah.
Just take them out. Take them out. My immersion.
I'm trying to think.
Immersion.
I think, like, I mean, I would love to have a game that fits the bill, but it just doesn't exist. And that's why I'm saying I don't know. I can't think of a game that could be turned into roleplay. But one I would like, a roleplay environment I would like to see would be something akin to like Firefly, the TV show.
Yeah.
I would love like a Space Cowboys sort of roleplay environment that's kind of like you can just, like, each little ship is its own little story and you've got stuff that's impacting it. Like, I would love that. I know technically Star Citizen does that, but it doesn't for me.
The one game that I don't know. There's probably a lot of games that would end up being really good for it, right? But you always had to think of the medium.
Yeah.
People had a lot of hope for like Fallout 76 when it came out.
I remember that. Yeah.
That it could be like this amazing like role play game, and it honestly could have taken the place of DayZ.
Yeah.
Had they done it right. But it just didn't take off.
No,
there are a couple games that I would like to see. Go a little bit more multiplayer than maybe into that into like some RP for like smaller groups. But Subnautica, I was actually watching Jessica Rose TV.
Yeah.
And she plays on Twitch RP, but I've known Jess since Minecraft days, on Build Guild and stuff. And we were talking about it. We're actually like looking around for mods for it, and they have a mod currently that is to make it a multiplayer.
Yeah.
So our question was, I wonder how many could you actually do? And it comes down to a community, right? If you could have a community of people working together for these little underwater areas, it could be really fun.
Yeah.
Would it be long lived? No.
It'd be a niche game. It'd be one of those niche ones that pops up for like 3 or 4 months. Everyone has a blast and then it dies out.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just, it's the same type of thing. But I think you really have to look at the environment that the game provides and then say, you know what, can we build something RP on top of that? Because a lot of it's not going to be built. A lot of it's, first person, not third person. And, what about our characters? We don't want them looking alike, and what it can do with that one.
Yeah.
That was fairly decent.
Well, and having and you mentioned first person versus third person, and while there are a lot of games that were literally designed for roleplay that were first person, and a lot of people prefer to play in first person, there's a lot of downsides to it, just simply from a video game standpoint and that's like DayZ, for example. DayZ's third person, but on Red Zone, if you pull out a weapon of any kind, it locks you into first person, which from a video game standpoint, it's great because it keeps you from abusing the mechanics that come from a third person shooter. But from a cinematic perspective of someone who streams roleplay, it's a pain in the butt.
I think we did that on Purple too.
A lot of DayZ servers all around the same time kind of enabled that feature where if you had a weapon out, it locked you into first person, because it makes sense from a video game mechanic standpoint, but from a roleplay and especially a cinematic roleplay perspective, it's not great.
Yeah.
So another question that was asked, Rebel, what was the RP interaction that got you addicted to RP in the beginning? That's a good one.
Dungeons and Dragons Tabletop Edition.
There you go.
I think I was 13 or 14 playing my first crawler, and I had an absolute blast with my friends going through this campaign that took us maybe like a month to go through. I was hugged. I was
Nice.
hooked on creating this character. I had no idea what I was doing. It was awesome.
I'm trying to think. 60, what about you? Because I'm trying to think of one too.
So like before I started role playing like on GTA, I did the whole tabletop
Mhm.
D&D thing, and I don't have the attention span to do tabletop D&D.
Mhm.
Like I like the visual cues. I like being able to see things to keep my mind distracted. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never got into D&D, but I like the sense of role play, being a character that being someone that you're not.
Yeah.
And so when I found GTA roleplay, and it was with Kylie Bitkin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I watched a lot of her when I first started, and just the stories she told at the time Fam, when she played on Fam a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Is what made me fall in love with her progression story of going from a cadet to a trooper to the RP that dishes and Hug gave like to her on fucking, I forgot their name, Socks and Violet,
Chaos
and
Crew?
then yeah, the Chaos Crew, and just the stories that came from family at that time, when it's just is what made me fall in love with like the aspect of GTA roleplay.
Mhm.
And from there I've tried like, Atlas.
Mhm.
And it bodes well with, and of course Red Dead.
Mhm.
But there's something about GTA that just brings me back. I don't know if it's the stories or the community or a little bit of everything, but
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm from.
I think for me, so my first interaction with roleplay was actually, I didn't even realize this until years later, it was a forum-based account called Nation States. And it was all text-based. And basically, you would develop a country or a nation, fictitiously, of course, that existed inside of whatever, like these three categories of universes, either past, present, or future. And you would just come up with whatever you wanted. And you could have commerce with other people. You could have wars with other people. You could have political stories with other people. And it was very weird, but I just fell in love with it, of being super creative and pretending to do this, and it was on a much grander scale. But then getting involved in GTA roleplay, I think what really hooked me was, I mean, playing on my first server for sure, it was a little bit weird at first, but I think what hooked me the most originally was, I think the memory that keeps coming back was when I was playing McNeil on my first server, and he was just a lowly officer, and there was a bank robbery that happened, and one of the officers was killed in the line of duty during the robbery, and it resulted in this really intense conversation between McNeil and his commanding officer. That was the first time I had like an emotional conversation as a character, not as me, and it was very different, but I picked it up and figured it out. But then that led into an actual officer's funeral. We had a processional. We had everyone dressed in Class A's, best we could with limited stuff. We had a gun salute. I had bagpipes playing on my stream. Like, it was a whole big thing. And that was like the moment I realized I wanted to start doing this more often and more regularly. I hooked you, just say it. Yes. I remember Kylie crying because she was so happy she finally got promoted from cadet. Aw. Well, if any last minutes, because I want to try and wrap it up before the 3-hour mark. UA was pretty close. He said, the three of you, this is gonna be a 4-hour stream, and I was like, no. No. It is hot in this apartment. Holy crap.
Oof.
It's toasty out here today. It's 85. We have a rainstorm outside, so it's super humid, and it's also 85 degrees. So it's
I'm wearing a hoodie and shorts.
68.
I wish
But
it
I've
was
got,
60 right now.
I've got like a whatever portable air conditioner unit that I have in my office though. It's Florida, dude. It's Florida.
Yep. Well, I just moved into this
all the
new
tech in this place.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I just moved into this apartment, and it has AC, and it's great AC. But the living room that I'm in, which is also like my office space, doesn't have a fan or anything. So I have a little tower fan next to me to help kind of keep cool air blowing, but it's still pretty toasty in here.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yep. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions in chat.
Cool.
So I want to go ahead and say thank you to Runwyld and Sixy. I love you guys very much. I was very happy to have you guys join me for this podcast. I appreciate and respect your guys' roleplay very much. So thank you guys for joining me.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Of course. And if you guys are ever down for more episodes, let me know. And we
More
can...
episodes.
Oh, you know.
More episodes. I'm gonna be trying to do them.
Oh, you already know.
I know. Sixy's already mentioned this to me multiple times. I'm definitely gonna be trying to do this more regularly. I used to do this I tried to do this every other week, and then life was like, no, you're not. But I am gonna be trying to do these more regularly, and keep guests flowing and ideas and whatnot. So if anyone ever has suggestions for ideas for topics, there is a section in my Discord called Offscript RP Podcast. Feel free to chuck suggestions in there. If you guys know of somebody who's interested, or you yourself are interested in being a guest on the show, pop in there and we'll see what we can make happen. But yeah, this is something that I love doing. I love talking with people about roleplay. It's a passion of mine, so I appreciate it. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and find somebody to host real quick. Let me just find Twitch stuff here. If either 60 or Run, you guys have a suggestion of somebody you guys like me to raid, let me know and we can throw it at somebody. Let's see. Pure's doing a subathon. Thadrius is doing a subathon. Yeah, Pure's doing another sub. Why not?
What a mad lad.
Dude, Pure's insane in a good way.
This is why I don't do subathons anymore.
I haven't done one in a while. Subathons are okay, but I won't do like 24-hour streams anymore. My body's just like, nah, fam, I ain't about that life.
Big same.
Yep, can't do it. All right, chat. Well, we're going to go ahead and raid Pure. We're going to send you guys over there. He is on TFRP. He's playing Trooper Shepard, and he's doing a subathon. He's 17 and a half hours in. Holy shit. So let's go show him some love. Thank you guys very much. I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good Saturday, everybody. Bye.
Bye.